Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the D and WhatIf, with another fanfiction. This is the third part of What If Deku Took Bakugou's advice. All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku sits at home, picking at his dinner, if he can even call it that. In front of him is a measly half-empty can of beans, accompanied by some dry scraps of meat. He sighs. Today hadn't gone as planned. He was eliminated in the second round of battles and wasn't able to prove his hero potential at all. While he can easily win fights without quirks involved, he completely fails against opponents with powerful quirks, and that's how he finds himself signing up for 3 rounds in the ring. The man behind the counter looks at him strangely. You know it's quirk fights tonight, right Verd? Izuku just grins. Yeah, I know. The first battle is against a small girl with a blood quirk who wields knives. Izuku opted to fight unarmed in the hopes of gaining more hand-to-hand combat, but against knives, that might not have been the best idea. The girl ends up stabbing him twice and slicing him many other times. But ultimately, the fight ends with her tapping out after he ends up choking her for long enough. He approaches the girl afterward, thanking her for a good fight. Thank you too, Verd, she says with a wide, pointy grin. I just wish I could have tasted your yummy blood. It smelled so good. Her grin grows and Izuku can't help but shiver. How do you usually get your blood? You need it to survive, right? She nods, pouting. Yeah, I buy it from the market usually, but it's always so overpriced. Izuku can't help but feel sympathy for this girl. She looks around his age too. Here, I'll give you some of mine. I have plenty to spare. Her eyes widen. Would you really do that for me? He flashes a smile. Of course, I probably have a jar from last time over here. Izuku searches through his belongings, finally coming across a mostly empty jar. Without hesitation, he opens the lid and places his wrist over it, slicing his skin open and letting the blood pool in the jar below. The girl's eyes widen as the jar continues to fill up. How much money do you want for this? Izuku just shakes his head. I don't need any money. I usually come here twice a week. I'll bring you some if I ever see you around. Don't hesitate to let me know. Is this enough? Her eyes are still wide. Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Verd. He can only smile at the enthusiastic young girl. It's so wrong for her to have to pay hundreds just to get the nutrients she needs. Fuck this quirk-discriminating world. The next battle proves more challenging, as he's pitted against a contestant with a strength quirk. The man doesn't use any weapons at least. But Izuku still isn't looking forward to how sore he's going to be tomorrow. He does take a good beating, but eventually wins, knocking out the larger man with a well-placed punch. The final round, however, presents a formidable challenge. The opponent has electric skin, so with every punch, every kick, every blow from either of them, a painful electric shock is sent through Izuku's body. He's already all battered from the first 2 rounds, sporting a few cracked ribs and lots of bandage cuts, not to mention the stab wounds, one in his shoulder and one in his stomach. Izuku sighs. This is going to be a long fight. I can just feel it. He rushes toward the tall man, throwing out a punch. It connects harshly against the man's jaw, but Izuku also gets a jolt of electricity. That's when he feels a searing pain all throughout his body. The bigger man had dug his thumb into the stab wound on his stomach, the electricity searing through his insides, through his bones. He screams. The crowd falls silent, none of them ever hearing Verd cry out in pain before, much less scream. Izuku can't think of that. All he can think of is the burning, agonizing pain that runs all through his body. But then, it's gone. There's nothing left. No more pain. He feels numb. He doesn't let this opportunity pass him by. Instead, Izuku jumps at the man. They crash to the ground by the sheer force of his movements, and Izuku begins to punch him as hard as he can. With one hand on his throat and the other raised, ready to punch again, the other falls unconscious, his eyes rolling back. Izuku doesn't let his guard down until the referee calls the round. He limps out of the ring as the crowd cheers hesitantly, ready to collect his winnings. Quickly bandaging his numb wounds, Izuku exits the market, wanting to go home and sleep. The walk home proves long and tiring, taking much more time than the injured boy had anticipated. As he limps, he feels a set of eyes following him. Fucking Eraserhead. Great timing. Now that Eraserhead is his teacher, he's acutely aware of his need for caution and has settled for avoiding him as much as possible. But today, the hero falls into step beside him, walking tall next to the hunched, limping vigilante. Are you all right, kid? You're bleeding through your bandages. Aizawa sensei's voice is typically calm and even, but there's a hint of concern in it tonight. Izuku manages a strained smile. The electricity must have fried some of his brain cells, because he responds instantly, I'm okay, sensei. I can't feel anything at all. Izuku instantly notices his error, and attempts to limp faster. You can't feel anything. The hero presses, that's not good. What happened? Izuku just shrugs, not wanting to give away anything else. Come stop by my house, I can help patch you up properly. You can't go home like that. Izuku glares up at Eraserhead, still walking. I said I'm fine. I need to go home, I have school tomorrow. School? He halts in his tracks, staring incredulously at the smaller boy. You can't go to school like that. Let me help. The vigilante continues to glare at the hero. I'm fine. I'm going home. Kid, what happened? You're clearly injured. You even called me sensei earlier. I didn't say that, he snaps. I'm going home. Go away. Finally, with a heavy sigh, his worry palpable, Eraserhead leaves. Thank fuck. I can't get kicked out of UA. Already. How the fuck did I slip up and call him sensei? Stupid, stupid, stupid. Izuku arrives at school slightly later than usual the next day, although definitely not late. Many students have already settled in when he enters the classroom. As he walks through the front door, he collides face first into Kaminari's back. A surge of pain and electricity courses through his body and he shivers, clenching his teeth to keep himself quiet. Sorry, Mido. You okay? Izuku nods, trying to force a smile as the shock of electricity makes its way through his body, dissipating much too slowly. Glancing around, he hopes nobody noticed his unusual reaction, only to lock eyes with Todoroki, who's staring right at him with a perplexed expression on his face. Izuku quickly makes his way to his desk, hoping to avoid drawing any further attention. Hitoshi walks over to him instantly, and Katsuki swivels around in his chair, both glaring at him suspiciously. Are you gonna tell us what that was about, or? Izuku shrugs, as if that was an answer to Hitoshi's question. Based on his friend's frustrated sighs, it's clear that it didn't satisfy their curiosity and concern. Okay, fuck you too, fucking nerd. Katsuki rolls his eyes, returning to face the front. Yeah, that Kaminari guy is a jerk, though, Toshi comments, throwing a glare in the electric boy's direction. He keeps staring at me and shit. From in front of them, Katsuki barks a laugh and Hitoshi smacks him on the back of the head. The blonde instantly raises his hands to cover his head and scowls at the taller boy. The fuck was that for? Mindfuck. What was what for? Blasty. Before he can let off any explosions or attack Hitoshi, Aizawa-sensei steps in front of the class, shooting them a stern glare. With a sigh, he begins his lesson. Today, you will all be coming up with hero names. Midnight will be here to assist with that. Katsuki tenses slightly in front of Izuku, before quickly composing himself. After formulating your hero names, we'll be setting up internships for the students that have been nominated by certain heroes or agencies. Usually, this is a second-year activity and privilege, but the focus is on your class this year. If you didn't receive any nominations, you'll be placed in a workplace experience, so your names are very important. Calls Midnight from the doorway she just arrived in. She continues to explain what goes into picking a name, but Izuku stops listening. He had never expected to make it to becoming a hero, so he had never come up with any name ideas. One by one, Izuku watches as his friends stand in front of the class, announcing their names. Some better, some worse. He particularly likes Tsuyu's name, Froppy. Katsuki, just like when they were kids, attempts to go by King Explosion Murder God. He gets shot down instantly. When it's Izuku's turn to present his name, he's still unsure. The guardian hero, Phoenix. Midnight tilts her head in thought. I like it, but you might want to consider modifying your outfit to better match it. Izuku nods and takes his seat. Once the rest of the class has finished choosing their names, Aizawa distributes the nominations, advising everyone to choose wisely. They have a week to decide and must turn in their selections with a parent or guardian's signature. Izuku has been forging his mother's signature since he was 8, so it's no big deal for him. Unfortunately, due to being quirkless, he hadn't received many nominations, though one in particular catches his eye. Among his limited nominations is one from Eraserhead himself. He squints at the name, trying to ensure it's real. He turns in his chair, holding up the sheet to Hitoshi, who presents an identical one with a lazy grin. Is it a good idea to go to Eraser's internship, though? Would it make him suspicious of me? What if we have to fight? What if he notices something's off? In the end, he shrugs off his worries, focusing instead on the prospect of learning more from Aizawa-sensei and his favorite hero, Eraserhead. Shouta observes his students as they spar in the gym, analyzing each battle. However, one duel in particular catches his attention. Midoriya faces off against Ajaru, both fighting without weapons. Every time Ajaru lands a hit on Midoriya's left shoulder, the boy winces. It's the same with his stomach and right leg. Shouta can't help his thoughts from drifting back to the previous night. He had seen Nightfall limping home, his shoulder and stomach heavily bandaged, yet blood still seeped through. Shouta's eyes narrow as he realizes the similarities between the student and Nightfall. The thought has passed through his mind before, but he tried not to let himself dwell on it. His height, his build, even the weapons. He shakes his head. I can't go jumping to conclusions with so little information. But he did call me sensei. Once again, he attempts to clear his mind of the thoughts, refocusing his attention on the students below. He looks up just in time to see Midoriya knock Ajaru to the ground, quickly straddling the boy and lightly pressing a forearm to his throat while raising his other arm. Shouta also notices as the fight beside those two quickly finishes. Todoroki, whose gaze is focused on Midoriya, is thrown down as small flames dance around his left arm and jealousy dances in his eyes. The time for internships arrives much quicker than imagined. Izuku is patrolling with Hitoshi and Eraserhead, walking the streets as their teacher explains what to look and listen for. Already being highly experienced in patrolling, Izuku lets his teacher's voice fade into the background as his thoughts take over. Before leaving, he had spoken to Ada, telling him to let him know if he ever needs help. The blue-haired boy had been off since the sports festival, quieter and less upbeat than usual. Despite Izuku's attempts to reach out, the conversation only left him more uncertain. As he continues on his first patrol, Izuku attempts to make more mistakes than he normally would, welcoming the continuous corrections from Eraserhead, spoken both to Izuku and Hitoshi. You have to stay light on your feet. Try shifting your weight to your toes. Stay in the shadows. No, not like that. Just try and cover for yourself. Keep an ear out for any out-of-place noises. It's fine, that was just a car, Midoriya. Izuku smirks to himself about the simple reminders, knowing he can handle all these tasks effortlessly without Eraserhead telling him. Unfortunately, it seems that Eraserhead knows this too. Their teacher's gaze remains fixed on Izuku, closely watching his every move. He takes note as the boy effortlessly jumps across a rooftop, landing easily on the other side. He notices how his eyes scan the surroundings almost unintentionally, checking for any possible threats. He even notices when at the smallest sound, Izuku tenses, constantly alert to potential dangers. Izuku tries to be more careful, to not give away his identity, but after training his body to work like that for months, it's hard to erase all that in a few days. After a few days on patrol, having gotten many lessons and stopped a few petty criminals, Eraserhead takes them to Hasu, where the real crimes occur. Sitting on the train into the city, Izuku and Hitoshi talk and tease each other the whole ride, much to Aizawa's annoyance. But as soon as they get near the city, Izuku can tell something is off. He instantly goes on alert, and the other two follow suit once they notice his reaction. Eraserhead receives a message from the Hero Commission in Hasu. Namo attacks. The three of them instantly get off at the next exit, rushing to the reported location. As they reach the battle scene, Endeavor is already there, battling a massive Namo. Phoenix, Hypnose, get the citizens to safety. Do not interact with the villains. Eraserhead's voice rings out over the chaos and the two jump into action. Before getting far, Izuku spots Ada's internship supervisor. Hey, do you know where Ada is? He calls to the man helping an injured kid. Ada, no, he ran off suddenly, I don't know where. The man has a worried look on his face. If you see him, tell him I could use his help. Izuku nods at the man, then quickly finds Hitoshi. Hinos, I'm going to be right back. But I need you to stay here and help. As he begins to run off, Hitoshi yells after him. What? Hey, come back. You need to help. Izuku doesn't respond, already pulling himself onto a nearby building and running off. As he scans the streets, listening for any sort of distress, he quickly pinpoints where his friend ran off to. In the alley below, Ada lies on the ground, his shoulder bleeding profusely. Above him stands Stain, his sword raised while an unconscious man lies a few feet away from the two. Izuku had heard about Stain lots from the rumors going around the underground market, but in person, he looks much more dangerous. That doesn't stop him from intervening. Before Stain can bring down his sword, Izuku jumps from the roof right above the villain. At the last second, Stain moves out of the way and Izuku lands gracefully in front of Ada. Midoriya. The injured boy struggles to speak, his voice strained from pain. Why are you here? This is not your battle, it's mine. And who might you be? Stain watches the smaller boy help his friend into a sitting position and place himself firmly between the two of them. Izuku glares. I am Izuku Midoriya, Phoenix. I'm here to stop you. He has some type of paralyzation quirk. After he cut me, I lost control of my body. Ada looks at Izuku with intense eyes. Don't get involved, please. I don't want you to get hurt on my behalf. Izuku doesn't respond. Instead, he stares down the villain in front of him. As the two continue to size each other up, he discreetly sends his location pin to the class group chat, hoping someone will see it. Mina was the one who set it up, saying she wanted to keep in touch during their internships. She and Kaminari went around collecting everyone's numbers and had nearly the whole class added to a group chat by the end of the day. In front of him, Stain finally makes a move. He dashes forward, swords in front of him, but Izuku dodges easily, throwing a kick toward the man's side. Stain growls. You lack the conviction of a true hero. I won't tolerate you pests interfering with my work. Once again, Stain lunges forward, his katana poised for a deadly strike, but Izuku sidesteps the attack, pulling out his staff and bringing it down hard on Stain's back. The villain dodges the blow, and their dance begins. Izuku uses his staff to keep Stain's katanas from reaching him, while the hero killer's ferocious swordplay tries to close the gap. His attacks are precise and deadly, aiming to kill, but Izuku is just as determined and used his staff to parry and counter each strike. As the fight wears on, Izuku spots a split-second opportunity. He dodges Stain's sword and delivers a powerful kick that sends the villain crashing into a nearby dumpster. Stain rises to his feet, a twisted smile crossing his face. "I'll have to stop going easy on you. You're no ordinary hero, boy." Izuku disregards the comment, instead using the villain's distraction as an advantage. He quickly closes the distance between them, jumping onto a nearby trash can and twisting in midair. He lands an axe kick to Stain's head so swiftly that the villain doesn't have the chance to dodge. As Stain goes down, Izuku attempts to land a few punches, but after the first, he has little luck. Stain retaliates by thrusting his katana forward, the blade piercing through Izuku's shoulder. He grits his teeth in pain, but seizes the opportunity presented. Jumping backwards with the blade still in his shoulder, Izuku lands easily and rips the blade from where it had impaled him. He sucks in a breath from the searing pain of the serrated katana, before throwing it behind him and out of Stain's reach. "Is Quirk, can you still move?" There's a sense of urgency in Ida's voice, but Izuku can move just fine. With a swift movement, Izuku lunges forward, choke-slamming Stain against the wall by holding the staff horizontally across his throat. The villain struggles, eyes wide with alarm, but Izuku doesn't budge. He presses the staff harder against his throat and Stain's feet nearly lift from the ground. The hero killer kicks out at the last moment, sending Izuku flying backward and crashing into the opposite wall, but he quickly regains his footing. The villain does the same, a twisted grin on his face. "I think I'm starting to like you. It's a shame I have to kill you. I think I'm starting to like you. It's a shame I have to kill you." Stain sneers, a disturbing grin adorning his face. Izuku grins right back, equally twisted and intimidating. "I'd like to see you fucking try." Both of them rush forward simultaneously. Stain only has his one katana, which he wields with both hands, but Izuku has abandoned his staff, relying on his fists and knives instead. Stain swings his weapon, and Izuku ducks under it, grabbing a large throwing knife. With a swift motion, he hurls it through the air before it lands deep in the villain's forearm. Stain hisses in pain, instantly grabbing the dagger and yanking it out. But that was a bad idea. Izuku had these daggers specially created with a concave bevel on both sides of the blade. When removed, it makes the damage much worse than it would have been otherwise. Izuku can't help the smile that creeps onto his face at getting the chance to observe the consequences of this crafted weapon on a real person. He doesn't allow the villain to recover, instead rushing forward and throwing a harsh punch to the man's face before landing a series of more on his body. Stain is driven against the wall once more, but this time, Izuku uses his forearm instead of his staff to keep the villain in place. He holds his arm steady, resisting Stain's attempts at escaping. He ignores the clawing fingernails that feel like daggers and the stabbing pain from the thumb that digs into his shoulder wound. After what feels like an eternity, someone else enters the alleyway. Instantly, ice cascades around Stain's body, holding him in place as his head droops forward. The villain glares at Izuku, who doesn't react. With one more swift punch, Stain is left unconscious. Izuku quickly reaches Ida, where Todoroki is already kneeling by his still paralyzed body. The injured boy has tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Midoriya. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," he interjects. "I saw that you were in pain. I saw you were hurting. I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I didn't help. How are you feeling? Can you move yet?" Ida shakes his head. "No, but I've regained a bit of feeling in my arms and legs. Not much though." Izuku smiles down at him, but before he can respond, Todoroki cuts in. "Can someone tell me what's happening? You sent a vague text with only your location pinned to the group chat. I was nearby so I came as soon as I received it, but what happened?" Izuku blinks, having nearly forgotten Todoroki's presence. "Oh, Ada went after Stain, and I spotted them, so I intervened." "How did you take out the hero killer? Who helped you guys?" "Well," before Izuku can try and explain, Ada speaks up. "Midoriya fought on his own. He defeated Stain with no help from anyone. It was extremely dangerous and reckless, but my life is indebted to him now." Todoroki watches him with wide eyes, the mix of awe and disbelief evident. Izuku waves his hands around frantically. No, you aren't indebted to me or anything. I just wanted to help." As Ida begins to protest this response, the heroes arrive. Endeavor, accompanied by multiple police officers, arrives at the scene, shocked by what they find. Izuku stands and smiles slightly at his two friends. "I think I'm going to go help Aizawa and Hitoshi now. They might still be fighting. I really don't want to deal with Endeavor right now." As he turns to leave, Todoroki grabs his arm. "You're injured. You can't go back into battle. You need to go to the hospital." "Injured?" Izuku glances down at himself, then returns his confused gaze to Todoroki's worried face. "I'm not injured." "What are you talking about, Midoriya?" Ida exclaims loudly from where he's sitting. You were stabbed in the shoulder by Stain's katana. You need medical attention immediately. You were stabbed. Izuku blinks at the two as the memories flood back into his mind. Oh right, I forgot about that. Todoroki and Ida just watch him with wide, perplexed eyes, their faces filled with concern. You forgot that you got stabbed? Todoroki asks, talking with slow, deliberate words. Izuku just shrugs. Shoto watches as Izuku and Ida recount the events that went down to the police. He doesn't join them but simply watches the two boys. Well, mainly Izuku. He stares at the green-haired boy, his shoulder bandaged heavily with many other wounds adorning his skin. Izuku doesn't look in pain. He doesn't look bothered by the injuries at all. He wears a bright smile that starkly contrasts the twisted grin he wore during the fight with Stain. The smile wavers slightly when the detective enters the room and informs the three of them that Endeavor will be credited for capturing Stain. Shoto wants to ask Izuku how he managed to defeat Stain when even the pro heroes failed to. He wants to ask how he's remaining completely composed after being stabbed when even Ida is wincing with every movement. He wanted to ask Izuku many things. He asked none. Instead, he continues to observe as his pretty green eyes harden at the mention of Endeavor. He watches as Izuku skillfully avoids swallowing the medicine he's given, as his smile vanishes the moment Ida and the police turn away. Shoto yearns to understand the true Izuku. He wants to figure out what he's hiding and how he naturally acts without this delicately put-together facade. Shoto wants to know the real Izuku so much that it scares him. Hitoshi is finally back at school after his awful internship. I guess it wasn't completely awful, but it would have been better if Izu didn't fucking abandon me to deal with all the injured citizens and the goddamn Nama with only Dad and Endeavor. He scowls at his desk, remembering the panic he had felt upon receiving a call saying that Izu was in the hospital after fighting with Stain. Aizawa had been pissed, but even he couldn't keep the worry out of his voice as he told Hitoshi what had happened. Hey, Shinsu, a voice calls, causing him to look up. You fought a Namu, right? I heard you were patrolling with Aizawa-sensei and Hasu. Hitoshi watches Kaminari with uninterested eyes, not wanting to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. Yeah, Izu and I patrolled there. I mainly helped with the citizens though. Whoa, I wish I had done something like that in my internship. You're so cool. Kaminari practically has stars in his eyes, his gaze fixed on Hitoshi. The tired boy can't help but feel his face warming up, much to his annoyance. I know, fuck off. He glares at the blonde, hoping to get rid of the blush that creeps up his cheeks. Kaminari blinks in surprise at the reaction, but with a blush of his own. He turns away quickly, rejoining the other conversations. Hey Izuku, why did you send that location in the group chat? Hiraraka inquires, holding up her old phone. You didn't even reply when anyone asked questions. Oh, well Ida, Todoroki, and I ran into Stain actually. I couldn't reply since I was in the hospital the next day. Izu laughs but quickly stops when nobody else laughs along with him. An eruption of questions ensues from the students, and Hitoshi chuckles in amusement at watching Izuku struggle to manage the onslaught. I didn't help fight, Ida interjects, cutting off the questions with a chop of his arm. I encountered the hero killer first, and then Midoriya joined. I didn't do anything. It was all thanks to the other two that I even survived. Izuku had it under control before I showed up, Todoroki states in an even voice, and everyone stares at him. Did he finally make a move? He called him by his first name. What do you mean he had it under control? Todoroki glances at Izu, who is desperately attempting to evade the spotlight. Stain was a few seconds from being unconscious when I arrived. I simply froze him in place before he was knocked out for good. If I hadn't shown up, Ida and Izuku would have been fine. All eyes turn to Izuku before they can bombard him with more questions. Katsuki swivels around in his seat, eyes on the green-haired boy. I wanted to go to the location, and I fucking would have. But that damned best genist wouldn't let me leave, he spits out, scowling. I know, Kats. Thank you. Katsuki flips him off before turning around in his seat once more. Hey, Mido, you said you were in the hospital, right? Were you injured? Mina sits on the desk beside him, her legs swinging. Oh no, not really. Izuku waves his hands around, trying to deflect their worried gazes. Midoriya, you need to stop saying that. Ida scolds, chopping his arms robotically. You were stabbed in the shoulder by a serrated blade. Not to mention that you instantly ripped it out by yourself. You what? Katsuki jerks back around as he and multiple classmates gape at Izuku in disbelief. You fucking idiot. Are you okay? Does it still hurt? Why are you at school today? Do you still have bandages on under your outfit? Hitoshi sighs. It's obvious he's not injured anymore. He must have killed himself and healed last night. Katsuki must have realized the same, since he too sighs deeply, turning back around in his seat once more. What confuses Hitoshi, though, is when he glances at Todoroki, only to see him staring at Izu, eyes narrowed with suspicion. Did someone finally notice something? Even Ida, who was also there, didn't realize. Izuku places his hand over his shoulder, a sheepish look on his face. Well, I was healed by some really powerful healers. It doesn't hurt much, but I still have my bandages on. I'm really okay, though. Itoshi just rolls his eyes at this. Before anyone can bombard the scarred boy with more questions, Aizawa awakens, signaling the start of class. The bell rings, and Izuku instantly dashes out of the class, hoping to escape the impending flood of questions. Finally, it's lunchtime. He quickly locates his table and smiles at his friends who are already seated. Ida and Tsuyu are engaged in a discussion about the upcoming final exams, attempting to figure out what the practical part will entail, while Izuku takes his place across from them. "How's your shoulder feeling?" Uraraka smiles at him as she sets down her tray and starts digging into her noodles. Izuku returns the smile. "Better, thanks for asking. I'm mainly worrying about the finals at the moment." Uraraka nods, temporarily unable to speak with her mouth full. As they continue their conversations, Yaoyorozu approaches their table. "I was thinking about having a study session at my place soon. Would you all be interested?" Uraraka's eyes light up at the suggestion. "Yes. Oh my god, you must live in a mansion or something. We should all have a sleepover. I think that's a wonderful idea." Uraraka, Yaoyorozu. Ida chimes in. "A great way to prepare for finals while getting closer to our fellow classmates." Yaoyorozu nods and she tells them she'll mention it in the group chat later. Izuku can tell her smile is fake, but it's different than his own forced smile. She smiles politely on the outside, but the brightness in her eyes gives away how excited she is. Her smile seems purposefully subdued in an attempt to not come across as immature or overly excited. Izuku feels for her, sensing that her childhood must have been nearly non-existent for her to act like that. She was never allowed to just be a child, was she? Before he can delve further into analyzing his classmates, Mike approaches the table as well. "Hey little listeners, do you mind if I borrow Midoriya here for a sec?" The others shake their heads, and the two of them leave the area. Once inside the empty teacher's lounge, Mike takes a seat across from Izuku, watching him with worried eyes. "Hey kiddo, I don't mean to stress you out or anything, but I wanted to check in with you real quick." Izuku settles in the chair across from his teacher. "I noticed you haven't been bringing lunch lately, and I was wondering if you needed food. I'd be happy to bring some like I used to when we were at the cafe." Izuku grimaces at the comment, but he knows it's meant to be helpful rather than condescending. "No, I'm fine. Thank you though. But you need to eat enough and take care of your health. Skipping lunch can cause more damage than one would think." Izuku stands, not wanting to partake in the conversation anymore. "Thanks, but as I said, I'm fine." "Was that all you wanted to talk about?" Mike nods defeatedly, and Izuku leaves the room. Hazashi sighs to himself as he watches the green-haired boy leave the room. Of course he wouldn't accept any help. In all the months I've known him, he's never accepted my help. He puts his head in his hands as he contemplates what to do. He's seen Midoriya at lunch before many times, but he never has a tray or any food at all. What do I do? Before he can sink deeper into his overthinking, the door to the lounge opens and Shouta enters with a worried look. "Hey, are you okay, Zashi?" His voice is low, comforting. He walks over to the couch, pulling the upset blonde into his arms. "I'm worried about Midoriya." Hazashi can feel Shouta tense at this, but he continues. "I used to give him food all the time when I was at the cafe, so I knew he was at least getting a little nutrition, but here, I've never once seen him with lunch." Shouta strokes his hair and pulls his husband closer. "I'm worried about the kid too. After everything that happened this summer." "I know what you mean. He was always covered in blood and Toshi told us about his scars. Plus, the incident you guys mentioned from the hospital. It's all so much. I just want to help the young listener." His husband hums in response and Hazashi can feel it vibrating through his chest. It's comforting and grounding. I have a theory about the problem child, but I'm not completely certain about it yet." Shouta takes a deep breath and Hazashi gives his arm a squeeze to show he's listening. "I think Midoriya might be Nightfall." Hazashi instantly pulls out of the embrace, staring at his husband with wide, perplexed eyes. "What? The vigilante?" Shouta nods, unfazed by the reaction. So many things line up, yet so much remains a mystery. The scars visible from his hero outfit match with the scars on Nightfall. He has the same eyes, same height, same build, and, when he drops the anxious, overly cheerful act, they have the same personality too. Hazashi returns to his husband's arms, his eyebrows drawn together in thought. They use similar weapons as well and have similar fighting styles. If they're actually the same person, when you think about it, Midoriya did a pretty poor job at hiding it. Hazashi snorts a laugh at this. "What's making you unsure? I feel like that's all the proof you need." Well, Shouta absent-mindedly plays with the blonde's long hair, lost in thought. There's so much that doesn't make sense. All his injuries. How does he come to school after getting hurt that bad? I can sometimes see him wincing slightly when he's touched or hit in an area where Nightfall previously received wounds. But the reaction should be much worse. What do you mean? I don't think I completely follow. When he stopped a robbery a few weeks back, for example, Nightfall was shot in the arm, right? The next day at school, during sparring, he was hit in the same by whoever his sparring partner was, I don't remember who, and he winced in pain. Hisashi nods, indicating that he's following. It would make sense for him to be Nightfall, but it still doesn't make complete sense. If he had been shot in the arm, the pain would have been far more severe. With a small touch, he should have crumpled to the ground in pain. And the next day, when we continued to spar, he didn't so much as wince when he was hit in the arm again. I know he has a high pain tolerance, but that doesn't count when getting shot. Hisashi hums in thought, considering his husband's words. You're right, it doesn't quite add up. Before Shouta can respond, Nimiri slams the door open. She pauses in the doorway upon spotting the husbands cuddling on the couch. Get a room you two, she teases, winking as she crosses the room. Shouta lets go of Hisashi, who frowns from the sudden loss of warmth. We had a room until you barged in. Nimiri just laughs. This isn't your room, show. This is the teacher's lounge. Shouta scowls at the nickname, but it only makes Nimiri laugh harder. Hisashi joins in on the laughter, grateful to think about something other than Midoriya's possible suffering. God, he thinks, I really hope the little listener isn't Nightfall. Class 1 a hell chat. Sonic, who changed all the names? This is a class chat. We should be respectful of everyone's name choices. Mama Momo, so the study group and sleepover is this Saturday. Please respond if you can or cannot make it. I was thinking you all could come over around 5. Green Bean, I can make it. Thank you for letting us all know. Pikachu, it'll be there. I can bring games. Kirby, will there be food BTW? Oxcord, I can make it lesser than 3. Sonic, I have to visit my brother at the hospital on Saturday, so I regret to inform you that I will be unable to go. Hopefully I can make the next one. I hope you all study hard. Alien Queen, I can make it. Can I bring snacks? Mama Momo, we will miss you. Ada, I hope your brother is doing well. Mama Momo, yes, dinner will be provided. Uraraka. Sonic, thank you. Yaoyorozu. Kermit, I can be there. Manly Man, hell yeah. This is gonna be so manly. Invisibi, me and Oji are gonna be on a date, so we can't make it. I hope you guys have fun though. Tails, have fun guys. Insomniac, I can make it. Insomniac, also are we all gonna ignore that Jiru put a heart? Isahot, I will be there. I've never had a sleepover before. Pikachu, OMG never. This is gonna be so fun. Pikachu, also Ciro said he can make it. He broke his phone law. Sparkles, fabulously fab Sparkles. Monami, I wish I could make it, but alas I am busy asterisk. Banquet of Darkness, Rivalry in the Dark. Insomniac, Great Explosion Murder God. Why the fuck am I in this fucking chat? Great Explosion Murder God. There's no way I'm going to some stupid shitty sleepover. Sonic, Bakugou, please refrain from cursing in the class group chat. Great Explosion Murder God, fuck you. Manly Man, Bakubro, we need you there please. Pikachu, we need you to help us study too please. Alien Queen, I'll Bakubi, you gotta show up. We haven't had a sleepover with you yet. Pikachu, Ciro will drink a whole bottle of hot sauce if you come. Great Explosion Murder God. Fuck no, I don't want to have a shitty sleepover with you. Green Bean, check our messages cats. Insomniac, someone's getting scolded RNL Mao. Sonic, once again, please refrain from using such disrespectful language in the chat. Alien Queen, OMG they have DMS. I forget they are close sometimes lol. Great Explosion Murder God. Okay fine, I'll go to the sleepover, but it's not BC of you fucking extras. Manly Man, YAYYYY. Pikachu, YAYYYYY. Alien Queen, YAYYYYY. Great Explosion Murder God, SDFU or I'm not going. Green Bean, be nice cats. Great Explosion Murder God, middle finger. You, hey I need you to come to the sleepover tonight. Cats, fuck no, I don't want to spend time with those shitty extras. You, first off, yes you do, you love them, so shut up. You, secondly, I have to patrol tonight, so I need you to cover in case I get caught. You, please. Cats, do you have to fucking patrol every night? You can't just miss one. You, knew there are people who need help, so I'm gonna help if I can. Cats, okay fucking fine. Fuck you. Izuku stands in the enormous mansion, gazing around in awe. Yaoyorozu, this place is, I don't even know. It's incredible. Please, call me Momo, she replies with a smile. But thank you, I'm glad you like it. Izuku had been one of the first to show up, mainly because he overestimated how long it would take him to walk from his home to hers. He doesn't mind arriving early, but he doesn't think he's ever had a conversation with Momo alone before. She fidgets nervously with her fingers. I'm a little scared about having a sleepover. I've never had one before, so I'm not sure what to do. I'm sure Mina, Kirishima, and Kaminari will all know what to do. Don't worry, he reassures. Are your parents home? She shakes her head. No, my parents are extremely busy. I haven't put in a request to see them for this weekend, so they shouldn't bother us. Izuku freezes. A request? What do you mean? Well, since they're busy with work, I have to submit requests for them to visit. They travel a lot, you see. That's, Momo, that's not okay. He stares at her with horror and sadness. As their kid, you should be their top priority. You deserve their love and attention, whether they're busy or not. Momo's eyes widen, brimming with tears. Thank you, Izuku. I imagine your parents are so lucky to have a son like you. If they taught you that, I'm glad you have such amazing parents. Izuku smiles back. He hopes she can't tell that it's fake. Just then, the doorbell rings, letting him escape any oncoming questions about his parents. As the class arrives, they gather in Momo's spacious living room, lounging on the couches and floor as they study. It's an intense session, ending with lots of yelling from Katsuki, but overall, very productive. Once it reaches dinner time, they file into the dining room. Izuku sits between Hitoshi and Uraraka. I had the chefs make a few options, so please, help yourselves, Momo announces as the servers place dishes around the large table. Uraraka's eyes practically bulge out of her head. This is more than I eat in a year. Momo, I'm literally in love with you right now. The people around them chuckle and Momo blushes slightly. Please, have as much as you would like. If you ever need food, Uraraka, I can lend you one of my dad's credit cards. Todoroki glances over, his voice nonchalant. Once again, Uraraka can only gape. What? I couldn't take that. Are you being serious? Todoroki doesn't respond. Instead, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out his wallet. He slides a card across the table and Uraraka looks like she could kiss him. There's not too much on it, but there should be about 1 million yen. To do, you're literally a god. I will worship the ground you walk on, Uraraka praises, her eyes teary. Can I do anything for you? Do you need anyone gone? It's not my card, so I don't mind. Please, max it out. Izuku laughs as Uraraka cries tears of joy into her food. Do you want one too, Izuku? Todoroki inquires, tilting his head as he watches the green-haired boy. Just as he's about to respond, Kaminari interjects. Hey, now that you mention it, I don't think I ever see Mido eating lunch. Izuku stifles a sigh, instead turning to smile at the others. I'm okay, thank you though. The heterochromatic boy just shrugs, returning to eating his cold soba. Grateful that the attention has shifted from him, Izuku observes the rest of the students. Katsuki is sitting next to Kirishima, smiling softly at his food. Izuku smiles to himself at the sight. After dinner, Momo looks around, uncertain about what to do next. I've never actually had a sleepover before. Do we just go to sleep now? Not you too, Mina cries, throwing her arm dramatically around Todoroki's shoulder. Don't you worry, Queen. We bought lots of stuff to do. We should start with a classic game, like Truth or Dare, Kaminari pipes up. Oh no, I don't think that one will be a very good idea. Momo hesitates, looking nervously at the ground. With how some of your dares are sure to be, I think a different game would be better. That's a good point. Knowing Bakugou we'd be breaking shit left and right, Zero comments with a laugh. How about something more chill, like Never Have I Ever? The class cheers, quickly rearranging the room, scooching the table out of the middle, and settling onto the ground. Izuku finds himself next to Katsuki and Tsuyu, across from Todoroki. Instead of alcohol, how about we use soda? I brought a few liters, Kaminari calls out, retrieving the bottles from his bag. Momo quickly sets up the cups around each of them, and the game commences. Jiru starts. Never have I ever not had a sleepover before. Momo, Hitoshi, and Todoroki all drink. You've had a sleepover before, Bakugou. Huh. The blonde turns an angry face toward Kaminari. Of course I have, dunce face. Kaminari puts his hands in the air. Hey, I was just asking. You don't seem like the type to like them is all. Izuku laughs. Me and Katz used to have sleepovers when we were kids all the time. Awa, your childhood friends. Mina coos. That's so cute. They continue the game, going around the circle a whole time, before the questions begin to get more personal. Never have I ever kissed anyone, Mina says, eyeing the group with a mischievous grin. Tsuyu, Jiru, Momo, Zero, and Izuku all drink. Izuku takes notice of all the reactions from the others. Kaminari watches Hitoshi with wide eyes, and when the other doesn't drink, a triumphant smile appears on his face. Jiru and Momo exchange glances with a blush as they both take a sip. Achako watches Tsuyu, while Todoroki keeps his eyes on Izuku. Wait, why is he watching me? Ew, I want to hear about who you all kissed. They all shake their heads, refusing to give Mina the drama she so desperately wants. Never have I ever gone more than a week without seeing my parents, Zero says, putting an end to the prying questions of a certain pink girl. Momo and Izuku drink. My parents travel a lot, the taller girl explains. Nobody misses the way Jiru unsubtly squeezes Momo's hand comfortingly. What about you, Izuku? Well, my mom works long shifts. He easily recites the familiar lie he's been using for years. So sometimes we just miss each other since she works nights a lot, and I have school in the morning. Beside him, Katsuki scoffs. The others look at him with sympathy. But for a whole week, isn't that a bit too long? Kaminari asks, but Katsuki smacks him on the head for pressing. Izuku simply shrugs. Tsuyu puts a finger to her chin, tilting her head. Well, what about your dad? I haven't seen him since I was 5. He laughs, but when the others don't, he clears his throat. Your turn, Uraraka. The game continues, and so does the student's worry for Izuku. Never have I ever broken a bone. Katsuki, Kaminari, Kirishima, and Izuku drink. Never have I ever spent the night outside. Kaminari and Izuku drink. Never have I ever gone more than 24 hours without sleep. Itoshi, Katsuki, and Izuku. Never have I ever feared for my life. Todoroki, Kirishima, Jiru, and Izuku. Never have I ever gone more than a week without showering. Kaminari and Izuku. Never have I ever had a job. Uraraka and Izuku. Never have I ever said manly more than 5 times in a sentence. Kirishima drinks alone. Never have I ever done anything illegal. Kaminari, Shiro, and Izuku. Never have I ever run from the police. Shiro and Izuku. Once it reaches Mina again, she leans in, practically whispering her next words. Never have I ever had sex. Izuku's heart sinks, and he hesitates for a moment before sighing to himself. He takes a small sip from his soda, hoping it won't be too noticeable. Unfortunately, everyone is scrutinizing the circle in an attempt to spot anyone drinking. Midoriya, I would have never guessed. Tell me. Who is it? What happened? When? Kaminari and Mina bombard him with questions and he shrinks in on himself. Back off. Dunce face, raccoon eyes, Katsuki growls, cutting off whatever Izuku was going to say. But back you, babe. Mina whines, leaning on the angry blonde. We just want to know a little bit about it. Fuck off. Leave him alone. At least tell us this. How many times? Mina wiggles her eyebrows at Izuku. I think it was around 6 times, he answers without thinking about it. He's not thinking about much of anything at the moment. If anyone paid close enough attention to him, they would see that his eyes are hazy and distant. They would see that he's no longer sitting in the room but instead sitting in the past, in his memories. This time, instead of stopping the questions, Katsuki is part of them. Instantly, he turns to Izuku, grabbing him by the shoulders urgently. 6. I thought you said it only happened once, you fucking liar. When? At this, the others watch with confusion. With Katsuki referring to it as only happening once, it makes it sound much less consensual than they had previously thought. Well, only 6 different people at least. I can't count the number of times. Izuku laughs humorously, and everyone's concern only grows. Carefully, much more carefully than anyone thought he was capable of, Katsuki lifts his hands and cups Izuku's face. Hey, look at me. He tries to, really he does, but everything looks hazy and distant. Izuku. He blinks, the stern words cutting through the fog. He can feel the rough hands on his face and can see the crimson eyes. Kaken. He watches as the blonde lets out a huff of relief before dropping his hands. You owe me an explanation later, fucking rat. Izuku just grins sheepishly at him. Yeah, okay. Finally, he seems to realize where he is, glancing around at the group of concerned faces. I finished my soda, I guess I lose. Does anyone want to watch a movie? Suyu is the first to break out of her frozen state. What genre are you thinking? Horror is usually my go-to for sleepovers. Kiro. Itoshi is next to speak. Yeah, horror sounds good. A chorus of agreement rings out. And despite Momo and Kaminari claiming to be too scared to watch, they gather on the big couch with the rest of them. Wow, I haven't watched a movie in like 8 years, Izuku comments offhandedly. The others all stare at him, aghast. What? 8 years? Oh yeah, you do have a flip phone, so I guess it makes sense. At Hitoshi's comment, they all stop and gape once more before going even wilder than they did at the first comment. A flip phone? What the fuck? How stingy are your parents? Goddamn. Izuku just laughs at their shock and disbelief. Let's just watch the movie, guys. Reluctantly, they don't ask more questions, having learned their lesson the last time they tried to pry. Izuku smiles to himself. On the big couch, he sits next to Uraraka and Todoroki. Suyu is next to Uraraka and has already begun to blush at how much the brown-haired girl is clinging to her arm in fear. On the love seat, Momo and Jiru sit closely, Jiru leaning back on Momo as the taller girl plays with her hair mindlessly. On the other couch, the rest of his friends are smooshed together. Hitoshi sits on the end, and, much to his disdain, Kaminari is pressed closely to his side. Next, Mina is between Kaminari and Kirishima, while the redhead is leaning on a blushing Katsuki. Shiro is on the other end, lounging over them with his legs reaching Kirishima's lap. Izuku smiles to himself. It feels like home. It reaches midnight, and everyone is passed out, or so Hitoshi thought. The class is spread out on the floor, half of them cuddled up together mindlessly in their sleep. Hitoshi smiles at the sight. He knows Katsuki will likely freak out when he realizes that his face was pressed against Kirishima's chest, and their legs entangled all night. Before he can audibly snicker, he spots movement from across the room. Izu stands silently, moving toward the window. He's dressed in some strange getup, which Hitoshi quickly identifies as his vigilante outfit. Oi, Izu, he hisses in a whisper. What the fuck are you doing? The hooded boy freezes, one leg out the now open window. Toshi, why are you? Oh yeah, insomnia. Hitoshi sighs and gives him a stern look. Do you really have to go patrolling tonight? Can't you just let yourself have this one night for yourself? Izuku shakes his head, a hint of sadness in his smile. I can't. People need my help. Nobody else will help them, so it has to be me. I can't just not be there. The two look at each other for a few moments before Hitoshi sighs, knowing he has no chance of persuading Izuku. Okay, but be safe. I'll cover for you if anyone notices. With a grateful nod, Izu jumps out the window, just barely closing it behind him as he goes. Hitoshi curses himself for making fun of Katsuki. In his sleep, Kaminari unconsciously rolled toward the tired boy, draping his arm across Hitoshi's midsection and pulling him close. He can feel heat rush to his face as his heart begins to race much faster than it should. Fuck, why Kaminari of all people? He glances down at the blonde's sleeping face and pauses. He's gorgeous. Without thinking, Hitoshi reaches out a hand and carefully brushes the blonde hair out of his face to get a closer look. He looks so peaceful, so pretty. Hitoshi tentatively brushes his fingers over Kaminari's cheeks. I never noticed his freckles. They almost look electric. Before he can do anything more, someone clears their throat and Hitoshi rips his hand away from the sleeping blonde. Sitting on the windowsill, Izuzu watches him with a wide grin. Whatcha doing there, Toshi? The purple-haired boy glares. But he can't hide the blush that paints his cheeks. Fuck off, Izu. The other just laughs. I thought you hated Kaminari. You called him a jerk, remember? Fuck off. As Izu crosses the room, still laughing quietly, Hitoshi spots bloody bandages wrapped around his upper arm. But before he can ask about it, Izuku has already left the room. Izuku sits on the bathroom floor, stitching up the open wound on his arm. He grits his teeth, trying to not let the pain get to him, but he's never had to do stitches before. I can't kill myself here, someone would notice. But I need this stupid cut to stop fucking bleeding. Internally, he's freaking out. He can't just not heal tonight. He has to die. He always has. It's a routine. He can't just break the routine. That's not how it works. He finishes the stitches and quickly changes back into his sleeping clothes, leaving the bathroom. Izuku doesn't go join the rest of the group. Instead, he sits on the grand staircase, deep in thought. I have to heal. I can't break the routine. I need to die, but I can't. Not here. Should I leave? No, they would get suspicious. I need to be awake in 4 hours, so I can't slit my wrists. Maybe I could hang myself. No, someone could find me. Fuck. He can feel his breathing quicken as he grows more and more panicked, unsure of how to continue on. Fuck. I have to do something. I have to. Maybe I could just hide in the bathtub and slit my wrists. Nobody has to know. I need blood. I need to feel the knife against my skin. I need to. I can't just not. I need to. He rises, panic fogging his vision and thinking process, as he subconsciously moves towards the bathroom. The only thing that stops him is when he runs into something hard in front of him. He can't tell what it is. But as two hands land on his shoulders, holding him in place, his panic only rises. Izuku, what are you doing awake? He recognizes this voice, but who is it? Why can't he see clearly? Are you okay? Not being able to tell who it is, Izuku lifts his hands, tentatively touching the person's face. He's taller than Katsuki, but not quite as tall as Hitoshi. There's a patch of rougher skin on one side of his face, almost like scar tissue. In an instant, the realization hits him and he yanks his hand back. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. I wasn't thinking, I'm so sorry. Suddenly, he can see just fine. It's okay, I don't mind, Todoroki replies, avoiding eye contact as a light blush creeps up his face. Izuku can feel a blush of his own on his cheeks, but he ignores it. What are you doing up so late? I could ask you the same. I couldn't sleep, Izuku responds, hoping the lie is believable. Luckily, Todoroki just nods. Are you coming back to the living room? Fuck, I can't do anything now that he noticed me. I was sleeping next to him so he would realize if I suddenly disappeared. Yeah, of course. I'm just going to wash my hands real quick. When he finally rejoins the living room, Hitoshi is asleep, and it looks like Todoroki dozed off as well. He sleeps facing the empty spot, so Izuku lays on his side, their faces a few inches apart. Pretty. Izuku can't help but stare at the boy for much longer than he should. A strand of Todoroki's hair falls into his eyes, and Izuku, despite his mind yelling at him not to, reaches out and brushes it away. As his face heats up, he quickly turns away, rolling to his other side so fast that he doesn't see as Todoroki's face turns bright red. Shoto is returning to the room when someone collides with him. The head of green curls crashes right into his chest, and Shoto reaches out his hands to steady the other person. Izuku, what are you doing awake? Izuku's eyes look hazy, distant. He can tell the other heard him, but it seems as if he didn't comprehend the words. Are you okay? Hesitantly, Izuku lifts his hands to Shoto's face. He flinches back slightly, but the fingers are gentle against his skin, the unexpected sensation sending a jolt of electricity through him. It's as if a spark ignites between their skin, leaving a trail of warmth in its wake. Todoroki's cheeks flush with a rosy hue and he inhales sharply, feeling the soft, gentle fingers brush over his scar as they delicately explore his features. But as abruptly as it began, it ends. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Izuku stammers, taken aback. I wasn't thinking, I'm so sorry. It's okay, I don't mind. Shoto looks away, avoiding staring into Izuku's flushed face. What are you doing up so late? Shoto raises an eyebrow, noticing the attempted distraction. I could ask you the same. I couldn't sleep. He averts his eyes and for some reason, Shoto senses that this may not be entirely true. But he simply nods. Are you coming back to the living room? Again, Izuku hesitates, still not looking the taller boy in the eyes. Yeah, of course. I'm just going to wash my hands real quick. Shoto nods again, walking back to the other room. He feels bad for leaving Izuku alone when he's so obviously distressed, but he thinks it's for the best. Lying in his makeshift bed, he faces the empty spot next to him and closes his eyes. After way too much time passes, he hears the sound of rustling covers. Izuku returned. I hope he's doing better. What takes him by surprise, however, is the warmth that emanates from the boy in front of him. He feels much too close. Shoto can practically feel the beautiful green eyes watching him. He forces his breath to stay even but is unable to do the same with his heartbeat. After a few minutes, he feels gentle fingers brush his hair out of his eyes. As Izuku's fingers linger a moment too long on his cheek, Shoto finds himself lost in the sensation, the warmth seeping into his very core. It's a feeling he's never experienced before, and he's mesmerized by the way it envelops him, melting away the walls he's so carefully built up around his heart. But in an instant, it's gone. He can hear the sharp intake of breath from the Izuku as he quickly rolls over, his back facing the flustered boy. Shoto hesitantly opens his eyes, his fingers reaching up to trace his own face. It's not the same. He wants nothing more than to grab Izuku's hand and place it back on his cheek. Instead, he closes his eyes and wishes his heartbeat to slow and his face to cool. He spends the night dreaming of a certain green-haired boy. Shoto sits in the lounge with the other teachers, listening lazily as they discuss the final exam. When the topic of assigning teachers to students comes up, Shoto finally zones back in. I should go against Midoriya. I believe it will be the most evenly matched fight since we both fight quirkless. Many teachers nod and Nezu begins to write it down when a loud, grating voice speaks up. I feel like young Midoriya shouldn't fight at all. Slowly, Shoto turns toward Toshinori, fixing him with his most intimidating glare. The man shrinks back in his seat. And why, might I ask? Shoto says through gritted teeth, would you say this? Well, he shouldn't even be in this school. He's not fit to be a hero with. I urge you to stop talking instantly before I do something I might regret. Toshinori clears his throat but doesn't back down. I apologize, Aizawa. I know you've taken a liking to young Midoriya, but I'm trying to do what's best for him. I don't believe he can survive as a hero without a quirk. It would be best if he wasn't attending UA. But since he is, I believe he should be exempt from the final exam. Nezu remains silent, and so does everyone else. Everyone except for Shoto. Yagi Toshinori. I will say this only once. Midoriya is stronger than many heroes I know. He's selfless and sometimes reckless, but that just shows he's eager to save as many people as he can. He's smarter than half the teachers here and has way more heart than you could ever dream of having. If I hear you speaking down on him again, I will not hesitate to use force to silence you. Aizawa. That's enough, Nezu interjects, and Shoto's hair falls back down. I didn't realize I was using my quirk in the first place. If Toshinori speaks down on quirkless people or Midoriya again, I will take action so you do not have to. And I do ask that you refrain from using physical force on school grounds. Toshinori pales while Shoto continues to glare at him as he nods slowly, acknowledging Nezu's words. I will personally drag him off the grounds to punch him in the face. Don't think you can stop me, demon rat. Class 1 watches in horror as Aizawa explains the final exam, too shocked to outburst like normal. We're all going to fail. Mina whispers, eyes wide. You're not going to fail, Ashido. The teachers will be wearing weights to slow them down. We've also paired you all up with classmates who are best suited to fight against the teacher we think matches you most. You are not expected to knock out the teacher. You can either put a handcuff on them or have at least one teammate escape through the gate. Kirishima raises his hand, a worried look on his face. If we run away, will we lose points for not being manly enough? No, Kirishima, running away doesn't make you. He pauses as if searching for the right word. It doesn't make you any less heroic. Sometimes, escaping is the best decision in order to minimize casualties. Kirishima nods, brows drawn together in thought. And, to make it even better, if you pass both the written and practical exams, you'll be able to join the summer camp we have planned for all first-year students. Instantly, everyone sits up straighter, their attention focused entirely on the teacher. Before they can ask any questions, Aizawa holds up a hand. The exams are in a week, and you will learn more about the camp after. For now, head to the gym for some practice. The class reluctantly leaves, joining All Might in the gym for training. When the exams finally arrive, Izuku likes to believe he's prepared. But unfortunately, his battle is one of the first. Izuku is paired with Tsuyu and they're pitted against their formidable teacher, Aizawa-sensei. They have a mere 10 minutes to strategize and set up before their teacher is unleashed into the fake city. You might be against this idea. Izuku begins instantly, but I think we should run. Tsuyu puts a finger to her chin and tilts her head in thought. Do you think you could outrun Aizawa-sensei? I know I can. I've done it many times before. I believe that with my knowledge of navigating these areas, I can stay ahead of him. She nods. What should I do, then? I have an idea, but I'm not sure how it'll work out. Tsuyu watches as Aizawa-sensei enters the simulation grounds, his goggles in place and his scarf at the ready. She creeps along the wall slowly, not wanting to give away her position. With her camouflage, he shouldn't be able to spot her unless actively searching. As he passes her concealed position, she creeps closer, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In an instant, she throws her tongue out, wrapping it around Aizawa-sensei's waist and swinging him to the side. He crashes into a wall, caught by surprise. Before he can regain his composure, she leaps towards him, throwing Midoriya's jacket over his head to block his quirk. She wraps her tongue around him again, this time encasing his arms as well. He struggles for a moment to free his trapped arms, before kicking out his foot. It connects with Tsuyu's midsection, throwing her small body tumbling backward. Her grip on the teacher loosens and he throws off the jacket. He activates his quirk, rendering Tsuyu quirkless and with her current position potentially useless. Without hesitation, he runs off before she can regain her footing, and she simply watches him go. Time for Phase 2. Midoriya is so cool. Izuku continues to run toward the exit, hoping Tsuyu is able to buy some time for him to get a head start. I know I'm faster than him, especially with these boots. As long as I don't make any mistakes, I should be safe. He continues to run, vaulting from one rooftop to another in an attempt to evade his teacher. With the gate in sight, he smiles to himself. He should have known it wouldn't be that easy. As he leaps to the next roof, Aizawa jumps up from the alley below, ambushing him. Izuku startles, stumbling and nearly botching his landing, but he regains his composure quickly. I should have known you'd find a way to sneak up on me. Aizawa just grins. Izuku attempts to flee, to avoid fighting with Aizawa, knowing he most likely couldn't win, but the underground hero knows that too and is determined to not let him escape. Aizawa deploys his capture weapon and Izuku narrowly dodges it, flipping over the scarf and landing on the edge behind him. He tries to capture him once more, and this time, Izuku lets it happen. He places his staff in the way, and when the material wraps around the solid item, it instantly yanks it toward the teacher. Unfortunately for Aizawa, Izuku planned for this to happen. As the scarf is pulled rapidly toward him, along with Izuku and his staff, the agile student kicks out his foot, connecting harshly with the teacher's chest due to the extra momentum from being yanked forward. The impact is powerful, hurtling Aizawa backward as Izuku gracefully regains his balance. The teacher swiftly gets back on his feet, and Izuku rushes forward, launching a relentless barrage of punches and kicks. Aizawa blocks most but is too overwhelmed by the unrelenting onslaught to counterattack. Izuku delivers a painful roundhouse kick and he thinks he hears a crack from Aizawa's ribs. Oh shit, I forgot I'm wearing steel-toed boots. The teen pauses as the teacher breathes in sharply and winces from the pain. Aizawa, taking advantage of the hesitation, shoots out his capture weapon once more. This time, Izuku is too close to evade, so he simply lets it happen. Shouta is certain Midoriya cracked one of his ribs with the roundhouse kick to the side. He has to hold back his cry of pain that threatens to escape. Steel-toed boots, just like Nightfall. The green-haired kid pauses, and Shouta uses the opportunity to use his capture weapon, shooting it out to trap Midoriya. The kid doesn't attempt to dodge it, he simply lets himself get caught. Midoriya raises his head and Shouta draws in a sharp breath at what he sees. A large, sinister grin stretches across Midoriya's face, sending chills down Shouta's spine at the sight. The trapped boy chuckles to himself. As he does, a voice rings out over the grounds. The first team to clear the board, Midoriya and Asui. Congratulations, you both passed the exam. What? Shouta mutters, pausing with confusion. He glances back at Midoriya's twisted smile. Phase 3 complete. Good game, Aizawa-sensei. The teacher releases his weapon, freeing the problem child as shivers run down his spine once more. And they said to not let him fight. Katsuki grins, a sinister look crossing his face as soy sauce watches him with wary eyes. We definitely should run. I think that's obvious, Zero attempts, but Katsuki just scoffs. No fucking way, tape face, Zero sighs. Why did I know you would say that? Katsuki just glares at him as he stretches, getting ready to fight. He's a bigoted asshole. He told the fucking rat he couldn't save anyone and left him on a fucking roof of a tall building. I'll fucking destroy him. All Might Sensei did that. Soy sauce scratches the back of his head. Damn, that's shitty as fuck. I still don't think we should fight though. I can't even fight up close like you both can. Katsuki huffs. Fine, I'll fight then. You just run. I thought we were supposed to work together though. I don't fucking care. Just run. I'll deal with him. Zero smiles a little as he watches Katsuki stretch. Oh, I think I finally understand what Kiri was saying about you. Huh, what did he say about me? Nothing, he draws out, laughing to himself. Before Katsuki can attack the tape fucker, the bell rings and the fight begins. Hanta instantly shoots out his tape, swinging across the buildings to quickly evade whatever Bakugou had planned. When he gets far enough away, he glances back to check on the fight. He had heard many small explosions and large bursts of air, and despite how confident Blasty had sounded, Hanta is still scared the blonde will get hurt. He observes from the top of a building for a short minute, watching as All Might Sensei lands several hits on Bakugou. He sucks in a breath through his teeth. That looks like it hurts. As Blasty is thrown into the ground once more, All Might Sensei turns and attempts to leave, hoping to catch the other student, Hanta. Bakugou doesn't give him that chance, however. He quickly recovers, launching himself at the larger hero. Hanta returns to fleeing. Maybe if I make it through the gate fast enough, Blasty won't get too hurt. Despite how it seems, Bakugou really does care about his friends. Hanta has always been good at reading people. He can sense the protective aura that surrounds the angry blonde, sending Hanta off to run so he doesn't get injured in the fight against the powerful hero. The gate is in sight, but before he can make it through, an enormous explosion is heard from the distance, so large that his hair sweeps slightly from the shockwaves. He glances back, seeing the explosion still ongoing. He spots Bakugou in the air, shooting off more and more explosions, surrounding All Might Sensei. Damn, if we had more time. Maybe he really could take him out. Unfortunately for him, or maybe lucky for their teacher, Hanta crosses through the gate. The second team to clear the board. Congratulations Bakugou and Zero on passing the exam. Even after the principal's voice rings out, Hanta continues to hear explosions from the distance. Katsuki returns to the observation room, though he should really be in the nurses at this moment. Bro, you were so manly out there. You're so powerful. An energetic redhead launches himself at Katsuki, embracing him in a hug before the blonde can even react. Kirishima quickly pulls away, a blush flooding his cheeks. Katsuki just scoffs. Of course I was. I'm always powerful. Mina bounds over after Kirishima, also attempting to throw herself at the blonde, but he reacts faster this time, throwing out a hand to stop her before she can reach him. Good job Bakugou. You did so good. She continues her feeble struggle to hug the angry blonde. Oh come on, Kiri got a hug. Why can't I have one too? Katsuki just scowls at her, pushing her further and further away. Izuku walks up beside him, punching his shoulder lightly. Good job, Kats. I watched the whole thing, you did amazing. Katsuki finally stops struggling against Mina, her arms hanging over his shoulders as she lounges on him from the back. Yeah, I beat his ass for you, fucker. Izuku just smiles brightly. Fuck. Itoshi sighs deeply as he meets up with his partner for the final. Did it have to be Kaminari of all people? The tired boy glares over at the blonde, who seems lost over what to do. Finally, he walks over. Their time is already nearly up for planning. Mike is going to stand by the gate, I bet. Hitoshi speaks up, catching Kaminari off guard. He's not the best at close-up fights, so he will just try and block us from escaping. Kaminari nods. I think I have an idea. Leave it to me. Hitoshi watches him with wary eyes. What are you plan? Before he can finish though, the final begins, the bell ringing out and cutting off Hitoshi's question. As predicted, Hisashi places himself firmly in front of the gate, a large grin adorning his face. All last week after finding out about the exam, his pops had been overjoyed about getting to play the villain and fight his students. Shouta called him a sadist more than once. As Hitoshi continues to try and think up a plan, Kaminari winks at him before rushing forward. What, that idiot? As the blonde runs toward the hero, positioning himself as if he is about to disperse his electricity, Hisashi begins to yell. Hitoshi shoots out his capture weapon, having finally gotten a better hang of it, and wraps it around Kaminari. He pulls the blonde back, away from the ear-splitting noise, and into the trees where they were previously hiding. The tied-up Kaminari crashes into Hitoshi, who catches him easily. He's much lighter than I would have expected. The yelling continues, but the boys are far enough away that it doesn't make their ears bleed anymore. Hitoshi replaces the noise with his own yelling. What the fuck were you thinking? Why would you do that? Instead of responding, Kaminari simply grows red in the face. That's when Hitoshi realizes the position they're in. Kaminari is bound with his capture weapon and only a few inches away from Hitoshi's face. Quickly, he releases his hold, shoving the blonde back as a blush of his own rises on his cheeks. I didn't know how loud he could be, Kaminari says once he regains his voice. I was going to try and electrocute him first so we could escape or capture him. Or something. Hitoshi groans. You fucking idiot. You need to think about their quirks. Whatever, I have a plan. Kaminari nods to show he's listening. I'm going to call out to him when he takes his next breath of air. That way, if he yells again, I'll have control over him. What if he doesn't respond? Then we can get close without going deaf. It's a win-win. Kaminari nods once more. You're so cool. I mean that's such a cool plan. Hitoshi rolls his eyes, but as the blonde continues to stammer, he notices something red gleaming on the other. Quickly, in one swift motion, Hitoshi closes the distance between the two of them. Kaminari promptly snaps his mouth closed, eyes going wide as Hitoshi grabs the boy's face by the jaw and turns his head to the side. Your ears are bleeding. Do they hurt? Kaminari frantically shakes his head, but Hitoshi doesn't release his grip. Instead, he turns Kaminari's head to the other side, checking if the other ear is injured as well. Blood stains the light hair around his ears, and Hitoshi glances at the blonde with a worried expression. He was so close to Hisashi. He must be in a lot of pain. But instead of a look of pain on the other's face, Kaminari is red in the face once more, his eyes still wide as Hitoshi's hand stays firm on his jaw. Hitoshi blinks. He quickly drops his hand and takes a few steps back. With a clear of his throat, he speaks again. You stay back while I go to the front. I don't want your ears to get more damaged than they already are. Kaminari nods, seemingly lost for words, as Hitoshi turns and walks toward his pops. He doesn't notice as the blonde drops to the ground, hiding his face in his hands. When the purple-haired boy gets closer, covering his ears, he waits for Hisashi to take another breath of air. After what feels like forever, he finally does. Oi, Mike, Hitoshi calls out, just standing in front of the gate. Are you? Can't fight us like a real hero. Hisashi slaps his hand over his mouth, knowing fully well how his son's quirk works. Don't you think that's kind of cowardly? Still, no response. Hitoshi decides to go for a different tactic. From the corner of his eye, he spots Kaminari sneaking along the back wall toward the gate. I wonder how many bugs are in this forest, he drawls. How many do you think are crawling on your clothes right now? Hitoshi knows it's a low blow, a ruthless attempt at getting a response, and the way Hisashi's eyes widen with fear as he frantically glances at his clothing to check for bugs only confirms this knowledge. But it does the job. As his teacher is distracted, Kaminari sneaks up behind him, clicking the handcuffs closed around the terrified man. Kaminari and Shinso have passed. They are the second team to win by capturing the villain. Congratulations. Once back in class, Izuku listens as his classmates talk about their fights. Only a few students failed: Satu, Kirishima, and Mina. Once they stop teasing Kaminari about what happened during the exam, Mina and Kirishima realize they won't be able to go to the summer camp and are devastated. Just so you all know, Aizawa says, cutting off the dramatic cries from his students, everyone will be going to the training camp. I lied about that. The class outrages, Mina, Satu, and Kirishima cheering, and Aizawa cuts them off once more. However, the students who failed will have to take extra remedial classes to make up for it. The three students go back to their morning. Class 1 a hell chat. Alien Queen, Ayu who wants to go shopping for the summer camp. Sonic, Ashido, you should be studying for your remedial classes instead of going shopping. Pikachu, OMG I wanna go shopping. Pikachu, we should go to the mall. Sparkles, fabulously fab Sparkles, I will join you on your trip to the mall. Monami, I could use some new supplies for the camping trip. Mama Momo, I think a class shopping trip is a great idea. We have the list of supplies needed, provided by Aizawa-sensei already as well. Insomniac, Ildrag Katsuki and Izu there. Great Explosion Murder God, fuck you all, I'm not going. Green Bean, Cats will come DW. Oxcord, I'm kinda scared of Midoriya. Kirby, aren't we all lol. Muffin Man, yeah, same. Snow White, same. Tails, same. Manly Man, don't worry Mido, you're scary in a manly way. Fafo. Flextape, lol, he's terrifying. Green Bean, what? Kirby, lesser than 3. At the mall, Izuku quickly finds his group of friends, who wave him over upon spotting him. Izuku, you're wearing such plain clothes. Uraraka comments as she hugs him in greeting. I would think you would get all dressed up for the mall. He laughs sheepishly. I don't really have extra money to spend on clothes. Me neither, I get it. Ida quickly rounds up the rest of the stragglers, yelling across the mall at Katsuki for several minutes until Izuku decides to drag the reluctant blonde over himself. We should split up to cover more ground, Ida commands, chopping his arms around violently. Get into groups based on the supplies you need. As the class president begins to create the groups, Izuku zones out his loud voice. I don't have any money I can spend on supplies right now. I should be fine with just the stuff I have on me. Soon, the class is gone and Izuku is left alone. Todoroki glances at the abandoned boy before leaving with his group. Izuku offers him a half-hearted smile. He sighs to himself. I was looking forward to hanging out with everyone today, but here I am, left alone. Even Katsuki was dragged off by Kaminari and Kirishima, so Izuku aimlessly walks through the mall. As he watches a little girl play with her brother, running through the stores, a hand suddenly wraps around the back of his neck. The skin is rough and dry, 4 fingers pressing down with much more force than needed. Izuku sighs. And here I was hoping this would be a relaxing day. He glances at the figure beside him and sighs once more. What do you want, Shigaraki? The villain's grip tightens on his neck. Don't say a word. If you attempt to flee or call for help, I will. Yeah, I'm not going to run or whatever, Izuku interrupts. What do you want? The fingers tighten once more, nails digging painfully into his skin. Izuku doesn't flinch. You brat, he spits. I could kill you this instant. Izuku simply scowls. Yeah, then come at me, bitch. I'd like to see you try. When the villain doesn't react, Izuku prompts him again. Come on, I dare you. And he does. For a split second, Shigaraki places his pinky onto Izuku's skin, accompanying his other fingers. Pain webs across his neck, shooting through his bones. Izuku bites the inside of his cheek to keep himself from reacting. Shigaraki removes his pinky before continuing. My goal, along with the rest of the League of Villains, is to kill All Might. We will kill him. You'll see. Izuku just scoffs in an attempt to hide his pain. Look, handjob. The grip tightens at the name. I fucking hate All Might. Really, I do. But no, you won't be able to kill him. As much as I despise the asshole, he's the #1 hero for a reason. You stand no chance. Shigaraki hisses in anger, but before he can speak, Hitoshi's group returns to the meeting spot, the purple-haired boy walking toward Izuku and the villain. Shigaraki removes his hand. And with one last whispered threat, your hero society will fall, right along with All Might, he's gone. Hey, who was that? Hitoshi finally reaches him, and Izuku reaches up to tentatively feel his tender neck. A friend. Well, not exactly. Before he can elaborate, Todoroki walks over, joining Hitoshi. Are you all right, Izuku? His voice seems calm on the outside, but there's a tinge of worry hiding underneath. What happened to your neck? How did he notice? Hitoshi didn't even notice. I'm all right, really. Apparently, he wasn't convincing enough, because the heterochromatic boy steps closer. He pushes Izuku's head down and lifts the hair at the base of his neck out of the way. His touch feels electric, sending shivers through his whole body. He can't hide his blush, so he keeps his head down as Todoroki examines his neck. What happened? This looks painful. Hitoshi, who had simply been amused by the flustered teens, finally joins the conversation, glancing at what Todoroki is talking about. Izu, this looks like your skin is cracking or something. Panic floods the purple-haired boy's voice. Well, I sort of ran into Shigaraki. You what? This wasn't Hitoshi nor Todoroki, but a third, more feminine voice that yells. The 3 teens turn around to see Jiru gaping at them. She swallows with difficulty before shuffling closer and speaking again. Sorry, I couldn't help but overhear. You ran into fucking Shigaraki, like from the League of Villains. Izuku sighs. So much for keeping it a secret. Yeah, he told me they were trying to kill All Might and threatened me to stay still and whatnot. He pretty much said to be prepared. The 3 watch him with concerned expressions. And he threatened you by disintegrating part of your neck. Hitoshi asks, disbelief and concern evident in his voice. Well, not exactly. Hitoshi sighs. What the fuck did you do, Izu? Izuku bites his lip, wincing at the next words that come out of his mouth. He said he'd kill me if I did anything, and I kind of sort of maybe challenged him and told him to come at me and dared him to try. He speaks in a fast voice, the words squishing together in hopes that his friends won't catch what he's saying. They do. Izuku fucking Midoriya. You did not. Hitoshi glares at the smaller boy, a murderous look in his eyes. Izuku, why would you dare him to? He's a villain, of course he's going to take you up on that offer. Jiru scolds, a look of disbelief on her face. That was reckless, Izuku. Even for you. A hint of disappointment fills Todoroki's voice and Izuku winces. It's not like he hurt me really. He didn't touch me for more than a few seconds. His attempt at simmering their anger doesn't go over well. Izu, your skin is literally disintegrating. Don't tell me it wasn't that bad. Izuku just sighs. I'm not telling Aizawa or anything. I don't want him to worry about me or add any extra stress. But, no, I'm not going to. Izuku cuts off Jiru's attempt. It's my choice. It happened to me. I don't want to cause any extra drama when nothing happened. What do you mean nothing happened? Hitoshi nearly shouts. Your neck is fucking disintegrating. Izuku levels a glare at him and the tall boy shuts up. Did you forget I can literally heal myself? Fucking idiot. It's fine. I'm going home. Izuku turns to leave, not wanting to argue anymore. Tell Katz and Uraraka I said bye. Todoroki is the only one who doesn't protest his leaving, the other 2 calling after him long after he leaves through the front doors of the mall. Here, I brought you some extra blood. Izuku hands the short girl a few jars, and her face glows with joy. I'm going to be gone for a while for a school thing, so I don't want you to go hungry. The girl nods, thanking him. Verd, you're so cool. I'll miss you while you're gone. Izuku ruffles her hair. I'll miss you too. And call me Izuku, please. Her eyes light up and she smiles widely up at him, giggling like a child. Call me Toga then. Izuku smiles back, but in his mind, he's taking in her state. She's covered in dirt and blood, almost as if she hasn't showered in days. She reminds him of his past self, the lonely, homeless kid he used to be. He debates making a decision that could go horribly, but after a moment of silence, he shrugs. What could go wrong? Hey, if you ever need anything, like a place to stay or extra food or blood, please just contact me. You have my number. She nods enthusiastically. Thank you, Izuku. I will. Smiling to himself as he leaves the market, Izuku thinks about his own state. He'd made enough money to last for a while and was able to buy lots of gadgets for the camp over the summer. He thinks he's doing pretty well. He continues on to his patrol, attempting to work more efficiently than usual since he'll be gone for a while. He feels guilty for leaving the helpless people alone but knows that with Aizawa also gone, the hero department will send others to assist. Perched on the edge of a building, surveying the surrounding areas, Izuku quickly notices a presence behind him. From the sound of the footsteps, it seems to be Eraserhead. Hey kid, the hero greets. You're out later than usual. Izuku shrugs. So are you, Eraserhead. His teacher continues standing a few feet away as he looks out at the city before them. I'm going to be gone for a few weeks. A trip for school. Will you be okay by yourself? The vigilante scoffs. Of course I will. Eraserhead just raises an eyebrow. I've taken care of myself for years. You don't need to watch over me, old man. The hero sighs. I know, kid, but I wanted to let you know regardless. Once again, Izuku shrugs, climbing to his feet. As he steps from the building, swinging safely to the ground, he mutters to himself under his breath. I'll be seeing you much more than you expect. Eraser. Class 1 a hell chat. Sonic. Happy first day of break. Everybody, don't forget to hydrate and nourish your body. Pikachu. I can nourish your body for you. Manly man. Kami wa nuo. Green Bean. I know someone who would be interested lol. Kirby. Hey. Me and Sue are gonna go to the pool. You all should come too. Mama Momo. That's a great idea. You're a raka. We should all hang out and have fun on our first day off. Great Explosion Murder God. Fuck no, we're gonna spend all summer together. WTF would we spend our one day alone together? Oxcord. Ah, you know you love us. Great Explosion Murder God. Fuck all of you. Manly man. Please see Bakugou, it'll be more fun if you come too. Great Explosion Murder God. Fuck you. Fine. Alien Queen. OMG Bakubi Tamer PT2. Pikachu. So right OMG. Flextape. El Mao, he's gonna kill you all at the pool. Green Bean. I don't think I can go, I don't have a swimsuit. Sorry guys. Great Explosion Murder God. Ha. No fucking way. If I'm going, you're going too. Fuck what. Kermit. Would love to have you there Izuku. Isahot. Agreed. Insomniac. I hope you all know that Izu is blushing. RNBC of that. Green Bean. Don't think I didn't see how you reacted from Kami's first message, asshole. Don't test me. Pikachu. Huh. Pikachu. PLS elaborate on that. Green Bean. Insomniac. Please don't actually. Green Bean. I love the power I hold over both URN. Kirby. At Great Explosion Murder God. Izuku's being sadistic and mean again. Great Explosion Murder God. Stop blackmailing people, you fucking rat. Green Bean. What, I would never. Insomniac. Wow, that was real convincing, asshole. Green Bean. Just so you all know, I have a notebook with all our social security numbers in it. Oxcord. Tails. You have what? Pikachu. Kirby. No. Bad Izuku. Alien Queen. Mido Nuo. Great Explosion Murder God. Izuku, I swear to God. Insomniac. Please tell me you're lying. RN. Green Bean. Great Explosion Murder God. Rat, I will go over there and beat her ass right now. Sonic. Midoriya, that is highly inappropriate knowledge to have and to threaten people with. Green Bean. Katsuki Bakugou. Social security number 378-51149. Great Explosion Murder God. What the fuck? Alien Queen. OMFGGG. Pikachu. AFLHAJKSDHLMFAOO. Flextape. God MLMAO. Kirby. IZUK, you know. Oxcord. I'm literally crying. RN. Sonic. Midoriya. That is highly inappropriate. I demand you delete that message instantly. Insomniac. I'm literally dying. Kermit. Izuku. Kindly, what the fuck? Kirby. You made Sue curse. OMG. Green Bean. DW guys, one digit is wrong. Green Bean. I know which one. Katsuki knows which one. You all can try and figure it out if you want. Great Explosion Murder God. You still posted 8 numbers correctly though. WTF rat. Great Explosion Murder God. What's next? Are gonna post my fucking credit card number. Flextape. I doubt even Izuku could find out that Elmao. Green Bean. I may or may not know her credit card number too, but I won't say. 3. Alien Queen. I'm dying. PLS post at Mido. Isahot. If any of you need money, I can give you my old man's credit card number. Kirby. I love USM to do. Mama Momo. To say I'm scared is an understatement, but I believe we should talk about a time for the pool party. Kirby. Oh yeah, I forgot that lol. Pikachu, Elmao me too. Flex tape. You have ADHD though, so you have an excuse at least, lol. Kirby, wow, rude TT. Kermit, me and Acha are going to be at the UA pool in about an hour. You all can come if you'd like. Flex tape, bet. Pikachu, bet. Izuku is not looking forward to the impending pool visit. Not only is Katsuki going to murder him, but he despises swimming. It wasn't always this way, but when he was younger, strangers never stared in horror at his body, gaping at the collage of scars adorning his skin. So, when he arrives at the UA pool, he opts for a long-sleeve shirt and sweatpants. Hitoshi is the first one to say anything. Izu, kindly, what the fuck? It's like 100 degrees out. Izuku simply shrugs. I don't really feel like swimming. That doesn't mean you have to be out in the sun with 10 layers on. Uraraka calls out from the pool. Again, Izuku shrugs, walking to set his stuff down in the shade. Unfortunately for him, he's surrounded by chaotic teenage boys who have no respect for pool rules. As the green-haired boy walks along the pool, a body slams into his as Kaminari and Kirishima run away from Katsuki's explosive hands. Izuku flails his arms, trying to not fall in. He grabs hold of Kirishima, the one who ran into him, but instead of anchoring him to the ground, he pulls the redhead into the pool with him. Once he resurfaces, the rest of the self-proclaimed Baka squad is dying of laughter. Kaminari is quite literally on the floor and Kirishima can barely keep his head above water with how hard he's laughing. Izuku laughs a bit as well, knowing it was a foolish idea to think he wouldn't get wet at all at the pool. That doesn't mean he wants to stay in the water, though. He quickly climbed out, his clothes dripping onto the hot cement. Sorry, dude. Kirishima apologizes, climbing out behind him. I should have watched where I was going. I have an extra pair of swim trunks you can borrow. Izuku wants to decline, not wishing to show any more skin than necessary. But the feeling of drenched clothing sticking to his body is far from pleasant. From across the pool, Izuku can see Hitoshi and Katsuki giving him a look, as if telling him to just go for it. He sighs. Okay, thank you, Kirishima. Shoto sits at the edge of the pool, letting his feet rest in the cool water below. A loud metal clang of a door slamming shut resounds through the area, and everyone glances up. Shoto's breath catches in his throat. Izuku stands, his wet clothing in hand, with only swim trunks on. He's not wearing a shirt. It's a stupid observation. Practically none of the boys have shirts on. But Izuku is different. The first thing Shoto notices is how attractive the green-haired boy looks. He's ripped, to say the least, and about as hot as Shoto can feel his face turning. The dual-colored boy can only stare as he tries to not freeze the pool or turn it into a hot tub. The second thing he notices is the array of scars displayed on his skin. Shoto had known Izuku had scars since the first day of school, but he'd only gotten a few quick peeks and stolen glances. He's never been able to take in the view all at once. The most noticeable scar is a large burn on the side of his body. It makes its way up Izuku's back and stomach and is surrounded by many other wounds that Shoto can't tell the origin. The next most prominent scars are those on his wrists. Although the scarred boy seems to be attempting to hide them, it's hard to do because of the size of them. The scars travel his whole inner arm, going from the crevices of his elbows to the heel of his palm. They're large and deep, looking lightly pink. They're not still fresh, are they? Shoto's observations are cut off as Kaminari speaks up. Whoa, it seems like you've gotten more since the last time I saw you. Bakugou promptly smacks him in the back of the head and the blonde winces, muttering an apology and excuse. Izuku sheepishly looks down at his body, laughing awkwardly. Really? That's so strange. Shoto watches as he goes and sits by his friends in the shade, instantly bombarded by questions. Izuku, how did you get so many scars? Uraraka asks, her voice full of awe. You look so cool. Izuku winces at that comment, a small grimace set on his face. As the questions continue, the grimace only gets larger, eventually turning into a scowl. Finally, when Ida asks if he's okay and safe, Izuku snaps. With a glare that could kill, he spits his words out like venom. Just fucking drop it. The pool goes silent as Izuku attempts to calm his threatening aura. Shoto can hear the whispers of the students around him. Damn, he's kinda scary. Kinda. He's fucking terrifying. Shoto has to agree, though the thought confuses him. He knows Izuku would never harm any of them, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he can be immensely intimidating. He kind of finds it attractive, in an odd sort of way, making him want to get to know the green-haired boy more. Slowly, the pool goes back to normal, the students moving past Izuku's scars and onto their own conversations. Shoto glances around him, observing the others at the pool. A few feet to his left, Kaminari is sitting on a pool chair, pestering an annoyed Shinso. The blonde seems to be attempting to flirt, making jokes and winking obnoxiously, while Shinso remains oblivious. If anything, one would say he looks defensive, almost threatened. Upon closer inspection, the purple-haired boy seems to be avoiding meeting Kaminari's gaze, keeping his tired eyes anywhere but the blonde's while light flush colors his cheeks. On the other side, Bakugou lounges in the pool, leaning his back and arms on the concrete behind him. In front of him, a cheerful-looking Kirishima swims, talking in a loud, fast voice as his head just barely bobs above the water. His hair is down instead of coated in gel and is falling in his face. Bakugou wears a small, yet genuine smile as he watches the redhead. Izuku walks along the pool edge, a mischievous gleam in his eye as he leans down to the blonde boy, whispering something in his ear. Bakugou's face promptly turns a bright shade of red and he aggressively tries to climb out of the pool. He doesn't have much luck, seeing as he falls right back in as his hands slip on the edge. Kirishima ends up coming to help him while attempting to hold back his laughter. Once successfully out, Bakugou chases after Izuku, finally catching him when the green-haired boy trips and falls on his face. Bakugou throws him into the pool, but Izuku grabs onto his arm at the last moment and pulls the blonde in with him. Shoto chuckles to himself at this interaction, the boys now splashing each other aggressively and drenching anyone who walks by. Beside him, Shoto picks up on the whispered words coming from Hagakure and Ajaru. But what happened to him? Those look so painful. He must have gone through a lot. I can't even imagine. I'm glad I can't be seen, so even if I do get scars, nobody will be able to tell. Yeah, I really wonder where he got them though, especially that big burn. Shoto huffs in annoyance and turns toward the classmates with a glare. That's none of your business, he snaps, voice firm and tinged with frustration. Stop gossiping about it. The two widen their eyes in surprise of getting caught, before muttering apologies and carrying on with a different conversation. Shoto returns his attention to his other surroundings, but something catches his eye. Across from him, Izuku leans against the wall of the pool house, his gaze locked on the heterochromatic boy. He smiles. Shoto feels like he's on fire. His face is warm. It seems like the sun has been replaced with this strange, beautiful boy. His stomach flips, feeling like a flame is lit inside him. That's when Shoto realizes he's actually on fire. Mina shrieks at the sight, instantly splashing water on the small flames as they spread from his arm and down the pool chair. Shoto's eyes widen, instantly snuffing out the dancing flames. His face is red with embarrassment, but Izuku simply laughs. If you're getting too hot, come on in and join us. The dual-colored boy gives a small smile before moving to the edge of the pool, dangling his legs in the cold water once more. He feels happy. The stench of cigarettes and unwashed clothing reaches Izuku before he even spots the tall, dark-haired man. Izuku watches him for a moment longer before stepping out of the shadows. The man startles, dropping his cigarette with a string of curse words. He scowls down at the vigilante. It's you again. Izuku rolls his eyes. He's seen this man a few times on patrol, usually finding him lounging around in random dark alleys, almost always smoking. Oi, fuckmunch. The fuck are you doing here? Izuku stares up at the man's burnt face with a smile. I brought food again. Thought you could use it. He sniffs the air dramatically. Though what you really need is a fucking shower. The man smacks him on the back of the head before snatching the container of food from Izuku's hands. Where'd you get this shit? He asks, shoveling it in his mouth instantly. It's not half bad. He stole it. There was a huge sale at the store down the road, making the place so crowded that nobody noticed when a small kid swiped a few boxes of prepackaged bentos. I got it at the store down the road. Not exactly a lie. The man nods, speaking with his mouth full. I guess you're not that bad, little hero. Izuku rolls his eyes again with a huff. I'm not a hero, I'm a vigilante. Oh shit, yeah. Fuck heroes, I guess. Not all heroes, just some. Like All Might or fucking Endeavor. The man drops his fork, and it clatters to the ground at the mention of the top two heroes. He curses loudly as his only utensil gets dirtied by the alley floor. Izuku barks a laugh and the man scowls at him as he starts to pick through his food with his fingers. Fuck you. What? Just use the fork, dude. It just fell on the ground. A swipe. Izuku raises his eyebrows, looking the man up and down. Since when have you cared about hygiene? Okay, fuck off, you intolerable little shit. The fuck? Who are you calling a little shit? You look like a burnt-ass chicken nugget. The man glowers at him. That was just mean. Izuku shrugs, dismissing the glare. My name's Nightfall, by the way. He pauses. Should I? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Or Izuku. The older man raises an eyebrow. Dabi. The fuck is a Dabi? Izuku ducks as the man attempts to smack him in the head. That's my name, shitface. Oh, that makes more sense. Do you live close by? You look homeless. That's 'cause I am. Got a problem with that. Twinsies. The green-haired boy laughs and Dabi looks at him as if he's insane. Well, technically I have a home, at least a roof over my head, but it's just an abandoned building I found. If you ever need a place to stay, let me know. Dabi raises an eyebrow. Do you always go around offering your house to every homeless person you meet? What can I say? I like to help people. Dabi sighs in exasperation. I actually have an opportunity to get a home. I don't know if I should take it though. Izuku stays silent, waiting for him to continue. It might be a bad idea, but they offered me a place to stay so I took them up on the offer. I'm still not sure if I'll go through with it. Izuku nods in understanding. Just try not to hurt anyone. Try not to do anything illegal. Dabi looks away, rubbing the back of his neck. Here, take my phone number. I won't be here for a few weeks, but text me if you need help. The man scoffs but snatches the paper from Izuku's outstretched hand. Like I'd ever need help from some fuckmunch like you. Izuku shrugs. It's up to you. He leaves Dabi alone in the alley, cheerfully skipping away. I hope he ends up okay. He seemed distressed by his decision. I just hope he doesn't do anything illegal. The bus ride to the summer camp is long and boring. Many students brought different forms of entertainment, but Izuku simply sits by Hitoshi's side, staring out the window the whole way. Once they get closer to their destination, Tsuyu taps her finger against her chin and tilts her head. Shinso, you remind me of Aizawa-sensei. The boy blinks at her for a moment before narrowing his eyes and scowling in disgust. No, I don't. With this, the bus bursts to life. Whoa, Kaminari practically shouts, pointing dramatically at Hitoshi. You do. You guys look like the same person, just younger and older. Aizawa sighs from where he sits at the front of the bus. I don't look like Aizawa, but you do. Even your scarf thingy is the same. Uraraka joins in cheerfully. From the seat next to Izuku, Todoroki mutters to himself quietly. I think I know the truth. The people close enough turn to look at the stoic boy with curiosity. Shinso, he begins, his voice extremely serious. Are you Aizawa's secret love child? Silence. Nobody says a word. Aizawa awkwardly chokes on his coffee at the front of the bus, and Izuku and Katsuki burst out laughing. The rest of the students quickly join in the hysterical laughter, excluding Hitoshi and Todoroki. I'm being serious, the red and white-haired boy states defensively. And I'm seriously not his fucking secret love child. Why the fuck would you think that? Would you like the brief explanation or the full one? This just causes the class to laugh harder. Izuku is practically hyperventilating. Katsuki is doubled over, clutching his stomach while Kaminari and Kirishima lean on him, also dying of laughter. Tears are streaming down Jirisu's face, and Momo is attempting to stifle her laugh modestly behind her hand. Do you have this written down anywhere, Todoroki? Izuku asks through his laughter. The boy just nods, face staying serious. I'll give you a copy once we return home. Voices chime in all around him, begging for a copy as well, as Hitoshi desperately tries to make it all stop. Across from him, Kirishima wipes his eyes and glances at the blonde beside him. Wow dude, I don't think I've ever seen you laugh that hard. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen you laugh at all. Katsuki instantly smacks a hand over his mouth, the slap echoing loudly through the bus. Izuku laughs harder. Katsuki's face is turning red at his futile attempt to hold back his laughter, his growing embarrassment, and his anger. Shut it, Kirishima. The blonde gets out through his held-back laughter. Kirishima's eyes go wide. You called me by my name. Huh, I always call you by your name. No, you usually call me Shitty Hair. Or Sharky, Zero chimes in, unhelpfully. Or Hair for Brains, Mina adds in a cheerful voice. Katsuki just rolls his eyes. Fuck off, all of you. Kirishima ignores this comment. Instead, he wraps his arms around Katsuki's midsection from the side, smooshing his face against Katsuki's shoulder. He called me Kirishima. That means he loves me most. Izuku isn't the only one who notices as the angry boy's face turns a bright shade of red. Ubakubi, are you blushing? Mina coos, leaning across Kaminari and Zero to get a closer look. He totally is. Kaminari practically screeches before Katsuki shoves his face away. Bakugou's going soft. Uraraka cries from the other side of the bus. I present to you all, Baku Tamer number 2, Ijiru Kirishima. Zero calls out dramatically. Shut the fuck up. The bus goes silent for a second as the angry blonde stands, his face red as Kirishima still drapes himself around Katsuki's waist. Izuku snickers. Damn, calm down, Sparky. Once again, the bus is filled with laughter. Their teacher groans up front, rubbing his temples as if he can feel a headache forming. The chaos ensues for a while longer, until the bus stops at what Aizawa claims to be a rest area. The kids file off the bus, finding themselves on a cliff surrounded by forest. Two women in cat costumes stand in a dramatic pose next to a bored-looking kid. Izuku's eyes widen at the sight of the women. Oh my god, the Wild Pussycats. They're a 4-person hero team that specializes in mountain rescues. Before he can go on a rant about these heroes, Katsuki smacks him on the back of the head. Can it, rat? Izuku scowls at the taller boy but shuts his mouth. One of the women, wearing a red cat outfit, explains that their camp is at the base of the mountain. That's like miles away. Why so far? Mina asks, tilting her head with a puzzled expression. Aizawa, along with the two women, begins to chuckle mischievously. It is currently 9:30, the red cat lady says with a grin. If you're fast enough, you might make it to the camp in time for lunch. But if you're not there by 12:30, you won't get any. Izuku sighs deeply. Of course, the training camp has already begun. What else would I expect? Let's get this over with then, he says, walking to the edge. I'm hungry, so let's make it quick. With a swift move, he launches himself off the edge of the cliff, the screams of his friends and teacher following him as he falls. He spots the white cloth of Aizawa's capture weapon, exactly where he expected it, and grabs onto the end, swinging himself safely into a nearby tree. With a feral grin, Izuku jumps from the branches, landing softly on the ground below. His classmates, although hesitant, make their way down the cliff as well, Izuku waiting impatiently as he leans against a tree. When Hitoshi and Uraraka come into his sight, Izuku grins at them. "Took you long enough, geez." Hitoshi growls. "You fucking idiot. What the fuck were you thinking?" He smacks Izuku on the back of the head, and the green-haired boy just laughs. "You could have died." "But I didn't," Izuku replies in a sing-songy voice. As the class all find themselves in front of the huge forest, Izuku is unsurprisingly the first to head in. But before he can get far, a huge beast, looking made out of dirt and plants, looms before them. Fuck, of course, there are obstacles. Izuku sighs. Hopefully this won't take too long. "I'm fucking hungry." Hitoshi is practically dead by the time he reaches the camp. He's not injured, just really fucking tired and out of breath. Panting, he collapses to his hands and knees as he's one of the first students to make it out of the forest, along with Izuku, Ida, and Todoroki. Close behind him, Shiro sits down next to the panting boy. "Damn, you really stayed up front with those guys. I thought you hated running. How did you survive that?" Hitoshi glares up at the sky. Out of pure spite, Shiro chuckles to himself as he pulls the tired boy up off the ground. The rest of the class eventually climbs their way out of the forest, all equally tired and out of breath. Todoroki and Ida are supporting each other. Todoroki shivering from his ice while Ida's engines splutter and look painful to stand on. Katsuki's cradling his wrists, and Mina's hands look burned raw. Uraraka and Aoyama both clutch their stomachs and mouths, as if about to vomit, while Kaminari is already in his way state. The blonde stumbles over to Hitoshi, smiling largely up at the purple-haired boy as he holds up two thumbs. "You're all late. It's already time for dinner." A blue cat lady calls out cheerfully. They all groan, suddenly remembering their empty stomachs. "We made you all dinner this time, but tomorrow, you're on your own." As the wild pussycats usher the students to the eating area, telling them about the hot springs they can visit later, Izuku's attention is elsewhere. The kid from before stands alone, disinterested in his surroundings as he glares at the ground. He has a look of anger and hatred that Izuku has never seen in such young kids. He has, however, seen it in the mirror. After their dinner, the students head to the hot springs, ready to relax after their grueling day. Izuku opts out, instead deciding to wander around the area aimlessly, hoping to clear his mind. He wanders for much longer than intended. It's already past their lights-out time. But he wasn't planning on sleeping anyway. He sits on the roof of the house the boys are staying in, staring up at the sky. "I can't do anything here. I can't help people. I can't even sleep. Well, I can sleep, but I can't die." He sighs deeply. It's already early in the morning. He hasn't slept for nearly 25 hours now. "I can last one night without sleep. I'll be okay. I'll survive." He climbs down from the roof, peeking in the windows of the house. Hitoshi finally went to bed. He'll probably get an hour or so of sleep at least. Better than nothing. As he wanders around the place some more, he spots a figure standing outside the teacher's cabin. Izuku freezes, instinctively grabbing his hidden knives. As he inches closer, however, he recognizes the figure. "What are you doing up so late, Aizawa-sensei?" The teacher startles, turning abruptly toward the voice. Upon spotting his student, he raises an eyebrow. "I could ask you the same." Izuku just shrugs. "Do you know who that kid is? The one with the black baseball cap?" Aizawa nods, slightly burying his face in his capture scarf. "His name's Kota. He's Mandalay's nephew. Apparently his parents, the water hose heroes, were killed a while back, so he was put in her custody." Izuku is very aware of this hero duo, having done plenty of research on them in the past. He feels for the young boy. Before he can ask any more questions, the teacher speaks again. "You should get some sleep, Midoriya. We're training tomorrow. You'll need as much energy as you can." Izuku nods. "Good night, Aizawa. See you in the morning." He walks away, leaving the tired hero behind as he makes his way towards the boys' cabin, knowing fully well he isn't planning to sleep. The next day is brutal. Each student has a task assigned to them, with the help of one of the pussycat's quirks. Izuku glances around at the ongoing torture of his classmates. Ida is running mindless laps around a large hill, which on top of Kaminari and Aoyama are attempting to push the limits on their quirk. Kaminari is attached to an electric circuit while Aoyama fires his quirk off without stopping. As Izuku attempts to check on what other students are doing, he gets punched in the face, hard. Stumbling backward, Kirishima's eyes widen. "Sorry, Mido. I didn't realize you weren't paying attention." Izuku regains his fighting position. "It's fine. It was my fault for spacing out." The quirkless boy was set against Kirishima for his training. While the redhead attempted to withstand relentless hits, his quirk hardening his skin for as long as possible, Izuku was tasked with making his attacks more powerful. So he punches and kicks the hardened boy with all his strength, his knuckles already dripping with blood from the hard surface of Kirishima's skin. Izuku grits his teeth. I'm going to fucking break him. Ijiru bites his lip to keep a cry of pain from escaping. Why the hell did they think Midoriya needs to get more powerful? My skin is literally starting to peel away after all these hits. The redhead ducks under a stray punch, only to have his feet somehow swept out from under him. As Midoriya climbs on top of him, hammering down punches, Kirishima can't help the grunts of pain. He's insane. Shouta stands next to Ragdoll, watching as his students are brutally overworked. The woman next to him seems to be worrying about something as she chews on her bottom lip, constantly stealing glances at the teacher. Finally, he gives in with a sigh. What do you need, Ragdoll? She startles slightly at being called out but gives him a bright smile. It looks fake. Well, I was looking at the weaknesses of some of your students and, well, some of them just concern me a bit. Well, who is it? The green-haired woman gulps. Izuku Midoriya. Shouta sighs, massaging his temples. Of fucking course it is. What happened? What's his weakness? Well, when I use my quirk on someone, it gives me a list of vague words and colors that point to certain areas on the person's body or sometimes simply float around them. She hesitates. Usually when I look at someone, the weaknesses are external, having the colors or words surrounding them or pointing at certain parts of them, right? When I look at you, for example, Ragdoll glances at Shouta. My quirk tells me that your eyes are sensitive because of your quirk. There's a light blue light surrounding them that lets me know that it's a quirk instead of an injury. It also shows me, with an arrow and a few words, that your left ankle has been broken before and is a weak point. Shouta nods. What does this have to do with Midoriya? Ragdoll worries her bottom lip, taking a deep breath. Midoriya's weaknesses are not external like most people's. They're internal, all of them. He has 4 in total that I can see. He has a dark pink light that encases his heart. That one worries me a lot. It shows me that his weakness is his need to save. If someone were to be in danger, he would sacrifice himself for them. She pauses. If his friends were captured, he would instantly give his life up for their safety. If anyone was captured, he would give up his life. Shouta doesn't understand. Anyone, even a stranger he'd never met before. It's terrifying how little self-worth he holds. There are tears in the woman's eyes, but Shouta doesn't comment on them. He has these lines that flow through his body. The color is unlike anything I've seen before. They resemble how I would see anxiety, depression, or similar things. They look almost like the lines of insecurity that run over Kaminari's body, or the lines of depression and anger that flow through Bakugou. But the difference is that theirs are always still mostly external, while Midoriya's are coursing through his veins. They're a color I've never seen before. What do they mean? Shouta almost doesn't want to ask, seeing how she gets even more choked up than before. He has this deep sense of self-hatred. It's suicidal at best. And I've been to many mental hospitals and even insane asylums. I've analyzed people who have tried to kill themselves several times. But this is so much worse than any of those cases. I don't understand what it means. I've never seen anything of its sort. Shouta nods. I've noticed some self-destructive tendencies in that problem child. He remembers the day Midoriya woke up in the mental hospital. The way he held the shard of glass to his throat, eyes frantically searching yet seeing nothing. He also has this creature inside him, it seems. I don't know how else to describe it. It looks like something in his chest that is craving. She glances at the teacher before dropping her eyes to the ground again. It seems like it's craving pain and violence, for himself and for others. It's almost like the Midoriya we see is simply a mask he's put up. I don't understand it. Shouta doesn't understand it completely either, but he knows what she means. He's seen the mask break before. He's seen the feral smile on the kid's face as he attacks villains. He knows he's desperately trying to hide that part, to push it down. What's the last weakness you saw? Once again, he doesn't want to know, but he has to. In order to help his kid, to help Midoriya, he has to know. Ragdoll swallows audibly. He has this blue light that encompasses his every fiber. It's the color I see that represents a quirk. Now, Shouta is completely lost. His quirkless status can't be his weakness. He's stronger than most of the kids here. It seems almost like his quirk is harming him, as if it's causing the other 3 weaknesses to intensify and become even worse. I've only seen a few cases where someone's quirk is their weakness, and it never goes well. His case is so much worse than the ones I've seen though. Shouta shakes his head, brows drawn together. That can't be accurate. Midoriya is quirkless. Slowly, Ragdoll turns toward the tall hero. A look crosses her face that Shouta doesn't quite understand. I don't know how to tell you this, but Midoriya is definitely not quirkless. Izuku collapses to the ground, laying on his back with his arms stretched out. He's never trained for this many consecutive hours before. He's quickly running out of stamina. Beside him, a few other students lay down in the dirt as well, but their relaxation unfortunately doesn't last long. Okay, kittens. Pixie Bob, the blue cat lady shouts. It's time for dinner. I've set out the supplies on the tables over there. She points to a covered outside area, containing tables full of ingredients and kitchen tools. The class groans but gathers around the tables. As they decide what to make and instructions are given out, Izuku begins to chop up some vegetables, standing next to Katsuki, who's doing the same, just much more aggressively. Whoa, Bakugou, I never knew you were so good at cooking. Uraraka compliments as she passes the table. Hey, the fuck is that supposed to mean? Are you underestimating me? Izuku sighs as the two begin to banter, turning the knife around and smacking the back of Katsuki's hand with the handle of the knife. Shut up and keep cutting, cat. The blonde snatches his hand away, cradling it with wide eyes. What the hell, shitty rat? Izuku simply rolls his eyes and continues to chop up the vegetables as Uraraka snickers. Across the area, Todoroki is lighting fires in the stoves as Ida attempts to figure out how a potato peeler works. Jiru patiently explains what to do to Momo, who seems to have never cooked for herself in her life. Tsuyu does the same for Ida. Izuku observes the students who seem the best at cooking: Katsuki, Tsuyu, and Shaoji. Many others are good at baking, he's learned, specifically Katsuki again, Sadu, and Shiro. Tsuyu and Mina chime in that they like to bake as well. Izuku smiles to himself. He feels safe with this group. As the students begin to dish up their portion, Izuku spots Kota walking off the grounds. The green-haired boy grabs 2 bowls and follows the kid at a distance, telling Uraraka to eat without him. Kota walks for about 5 minutes, climbing up a steep mountain before he reaches the top. He sits near the edge, staring at the forest down below. The kid's stomach growls loudly and he winces slightly. You must be pretty hungry, Izuku says as he walks over to him. The kid jumps, startled. How did you find my secret base? Izuku blinks. Oh, sorry, I just followed you up here. I assumed you hadn't eaten yet, so I brought you some curry. Kota scowls at the teen. I don't want any. Get out of my base. Heroes aren't welcome here. Heroes? Do you? Not like heroes. No. He stomps his foot, clenching his fists. It's all so stupid. Calling yourselves heroes and villains. Going around bragging about your quirks. You're all idiots. He's not wrong. I understand what you mean, Izuku begins. Kota opens his mouth to protest, but he speaks quickly, cutting the kid off. I think that going around bragging about quirks and acting like that's all that matters is stupid. I dislike a lot of heroes who only do it for the fame. Kota just stares. Why the heck are you here then? What, are you stupid? A hypocrite? Izuku shakes his head, a small, soft smile playing on his lips. I'm actually quirkless. The kid freezes, looking at him with wide eyes. I want to be the first quirkless hero. Not for fame, not for the title, but so I can help people. So I can inspire others to save people without having flashy quirk. Even without any quirk at all. Kota stays frozen for a moment, but then quickly swivels on his heel, turning his back to the quirkless boy. I don't care. Get out of my base. Izuku nods, placing the bowl of food down a few feet away from the kid. I hope someday someone saves him. I hope he realizes how much that can mean to someone. Shouta watches Izuku sneak off the campus, following Mandalay's kid from a distance with 2 bowls in his hands. He thinks back to what Ragdoll had said. All of it had been immensely worrying, but sadly explainable or understandable. The last comment, however, is still a complete mystery to Shouta. Midoriya is definitely not quirkless. She must have been mistaken. It doesn't make sense. Biting his lip, he attempts to think back on every encounter he's had with Midoriya and, just to play it safe, nightfall. The only thing that would make sense is a healing quirk. Or maybe strength and agility. No, he shakes his head. Those show up on quirk tests too easily. There's no way he could have kept those hidden from a quirk specialist during all of his exams. Even if he was a late bloomer, he would have gotten found out at the entrance tests. It was required to be examined by a specialist before UA began in order to update their information so that teachers could teach them effectively. Healing, strength, and agility are some of the first to show up during those tests. It just doesn't make sense. With a sigh, Shouta decides on the only possible solution. Ragdoll must have been mistaken. It was probably saying that his quirkless status was a weakness. Even pros mess up occasionally, pushing away his doubt, which tells him that it still doesn't make sense, that Midoriya being quirkless is in no way a weakness. Shouta stands and returns to the teacher's cabin. I need a goddamn nap. Izuku has gone without sleep for 49 hours. It's just past midnight and Hitoshi is the only one still awake. Izuku lies in his bed, waiting for sleep to overtake him. It doesn't. Hesitantly, he props himself up on his elbows, glancing over at Hitoshi. Hey, are you still awake? Of fucking course I am. Why are you awake? The response comes instantly, the head of purple hair sitting up and glaring at Izuku. I've been awake for like 50 hours, so it's a bit challenging to fall asleep now, he says nonchalantly. What? Hitoshi whisper shouts across the 2 students that separate them. Why the fuck have you? Never mind. Go the fuck to bed, Izu. The green-haired boy sighs. Do you not think I'm trying? Not really. You're talking, not sleeping. With a huff of frustration, Izuku flops back down, raising a hand to flip off Hitoshi, who just snickers. Fine, I'll try to fucking sleep. Fuck you. As he lays down, closing his eyes, sleep washes over him shockingly easily. It's a strange feeling, having not slept in months without the comfort of death. Izuku just hopes his tiredness will keep the nightmares at bay. Izuku claws at the ground, his nails scraping painfully across the hardwood floor in a futile attempt to escape the man's grip. Please, don't make me go down there. Izuku cries, his voice sounding much smaller than usual. The faceless man just growls. Stop fucking resisting, brat. You know the rules. He does know the rules. That doesn't mean he wants to follow them, though. So as they cross the doorway to the basement, Izuku desperately grabs onto the frame, his fingers and nails already bloody from his attempts at escaping. No, please, don't make me go down there. With an angry growl, the faceless man grabs Izuku's small leg, yanking him down the stairs. The cement smashed into his chin, the taste of metal instantly flooding into his mouth. He cries out in pain, trying to get his feet or hands under him as he tumbles down the stairs. But it's no use. The man sneers down at him as the kid lies in a crumpled ball on the hard cement of the basement. That's what happens when you don't listen, brat. He stomps down the rest of the stairs, grabbing Izuku forcefully by the arm and throwing him onto the chair that sits down there, waiting. Izuku screams, thrashes, kicks. He does everything he can to resist the straps that hold his arms and legs down. It's useless. The faceless man huffs in annoyance as the screaming doesn't cease. He grabs a mask, covering the kid's eyes. Everything goes black. Izuku rips his arms from the straps, desperately clawing at his face to remove the item blocking his view. It doesn't work. Hands grab his wrists, pinning them back down as the man growls angrily. Stay fucking still. No, he screams. Stop. Please don't hurt me. A sharp whip of pain meets his cheek as if he'd just been slapped. I said stay still. The faceless man grabs something. The sound of metal tools clinking together reaches his ears and his breath speeds up. Please, don't hurt me. Please. The man doesn't listen. Instead, the feeling of a needle stabs into his arm and intense pain flows through his body. Izuku screams. His eyes fly open. He was just dreaming. But for some reason, he can still hear screaming in the distance. Oh, wait, it's me. He snaps his mouth closed, attempting to slap his hand over it, but his arms are still pinned down. Shit, maybe it wasn't a dream. He tries to look around desperately, but his surroundings remain dark. The only thing he can see is the figures in front of him. They're faceless. Izuku wrestles his arms out of the restraints, throwing out his fists wildly as he attempts to get away from the faceless attackers. Once free, he shuffles backward quickly until his back hits a wall. Izuku stands, following along the cold cement until he reaches a corner. Corners are safe. He sinks to the ground, his breath speeding up. He can't help it. It's not real. It's just a dream. But it is real. The faceless people close in around him and Izuku throws his arms over his head, protecting himself as best he can. I can't breathe. It's just a dream. It's not real. Please, someone, please, help me. Hitoshi watches as Izu's breathing evens out, settling into a steady rhythm as he drifts into sleep. God knows he needs it. And thankfully it's actual sleep instead of death. After continuing to watch his friend for a while longer, Hitoshi lays back down, hoping to get some much-needed rest of his own. But it doesn't take long for his peace to be interrupted once more. Rustling can be heard along with soft mumbling. Hitoshi groans. Go to sleep, Izu. His friend doesn't respond. Instead, the sounds escalate, growing more frantic. As Izuku wrestles with his covers, his breathing much too quick, Hitoshi makes his way to the boy's side, growing increasingly more worried by the second. Izu, are you okay? No, stop. Don't make me go down back there. His words are quiet, but they echo through Hitoshi's head like a siren. As his distress intensifies, a few students nearby begin to stir. Katsuki is one of the first, waking with annoyance, but instantly climbing over Todoroki to be next to his childhood friend. Todoroki follows suit, awakening with a glare pointed at Katsuki, but upon noticing Izuku's distressed state, he instantly abandons it. Oi, nerd, the blonde shakes him gently. Wake up, you're dreaming. He doesn't wake. No, stop. His words grow to a shout as he begins to thrash around violently. By now, nearly all the students in the room are awake, and all heavily concerned. What's going on, Shinso? Bakugou. Ada searches for his glasses as he speaks up, but nobody answers him. Suddenly, Izuku's hands lurch towards his face, his nails dragging across his eyes, leaving trails of red. Hitoshi instantly grabs one of his arms, trying desperately to pull it away from his face. Izu, wake up. You're hurting yourself. Katsuki grabs the other, but even he can't completely hold him down. Why are you so goddamn strong, fucking rat? He curses under his breath, desperately trying to keep the hands from his already injured face. Todoroki and Kirishima are quick to step in and help, each grabbing an arm as well and pinning them to the boy's side. Tears run down his face as a blood-curdling scream rips from his throat, piercing the room and jerking him awake. Hitoshi lets out a sigh of relief. This relief is short-lived. The screaming doesn't stop instantly, but after a few moments, he snaps his mouth shut. Izuku rips his arms out of the holds of the 4 boys before swinging his fists wildly. One connects with Hitoshi's face and he stumbles back, cradling his jaw. He's unsure how Izuku is so strong instantly after waking up. Mido, wake up. It's us, Kirishima cries out, but Izuku doesn't react, acting as if he didn't even hear him. The green-haired boy stumbles backward, the students parting so he doesn't collide with them. He finds a corner and curls in on himself as his eyes search the room frantically, looking for anything, yet seemingly seeing nothing. The boys surround him instantly, but Ida yells at them to give him space. Izuku, look at me. Katsuki's on his knees in front of him, but the boy simply curls further in on himself. Midoriya, can you hear me? Ada tries. No response. Hitoshi watches as Izuku's breathing speeds up. Shit, he's having a panic attack, I think. Fuck, this is so much worse than I expected. What the hell happened? Katsuki kneels in front of Izuku, ice hot next to him as he attempts to talk to the trembling boy in the corner. The blonde hesitantly reaches out a hand, but Izuku flinches back, raising his arms to block his head as if expecting to be hit. Izuku, I need you to listen to me. You need to breathe. No response. Please, he practically begs. He hates the desperation in his voice, but he pushes that feeling down. For Izuku, it's me, Katsuki, Kaken. Please, look at me. Suddenly, Izuku's eyes snap upward, focusing as they stare into Katsuki's crimson ones. Thank fuck, he's back. This, I know how to deal with. He reaches out, cupping Izuku's face in his hands. Breathe, follow my breathing. Izuku closes his eyes, attempting to even out his breath, and after a few minutes, it works. Izuku stands, pushing off Katsuki's hands as he does, and gives the class a sheepish smile. Sorry about that, guys, I'm fine. Katsuki growls, frustration growing in his chest. But before he can say anything, multiple people voice his concern, calling out in protest. Izu, you're obviously not fine. Midoriya, you just had a panic attack after a severe nightmare. I highly doubt you're fine. You're not. Should we get the teacher? Izuku brushes off the words, going and lying down on his bed without so much as giving them a second glance. The class falls silent. Izuku, Midoriya. Katsuki growls from his gritted teeth. What the fuck just happened? A moment of silent suspense passes. I can't hear you. I'm sleeping. The obviously awake boy responds. Katsuki huffs, knowing Izuku is way too stubborn to give in. Fine, fuck you. He plops back down on his bed, rolling over and closing his eyes aggressively, and the rest of the class hesitantly follows. But he doesn't sleep well that night, tossing and turning the whole time. Every time he wakes up, Izuku is awake as well. Katsuki doesn't think he slept the whole night. Shoto watches as Izuku whistles cheerfully, walking down to the training area. There are faded red lines on his face from when he clawed at his skin, but they look much better than the night before. All the boys are warily watching him from the corners of their eyes, and Shoto is sure Izuku is aware of this. To be honest, it was terrifying watching Izuku freak out as he did the previous night. Shoto's never seen anything like it before, and God knows he's had his fair share of nightmares. So, Shoto keeps an eye on the green-haired boy, listening even as their teacher approaches him. Midoriya, what happened last night? I heard screaming and some of the students said it had to do with you. Aizawa watches Izuku carefully as if he already knows the answer. Izuku just shrugs. Shoto sighs. He wants more than anything to understand this strange boy, to get close to him, but it feels as if every interaction only leads him further from understanding. The next thing on the schedule, my little kittens, Pixie Bob calls out, grabbing everyone's attention, is a test of courage. The class listens intently as the heroes explain the test and assign groups, excited to finally have some time to relax and have fun. Izuku gets paired up with Zero, which he's content with. As the sun goes down and the first group start, Izuku smiles to himself. Finally, after all the training and stress of the past few days, he'll finally get to relax. He couldn't have been more wrong. Achako trembles as she slowly creeps through the forest. Why did it have to be a test of courage, of all things? She complains, I'm terrible with jump scares. Sue offers a comforting smile. It'll be okay. There's no real danger, Kiro. They continue walking, with Sue leading the way, when someone jumps down from the tree in front of them, making Achako shriek loudly. She clutches Tetsu as the Class B student from the tree cackles. With a blush, she releases her hold on the green-haired girl, but Sue smiles back at her. You can hold my hand if you want. Achako's blush deepens as she takes the girl's outstretched hand, intertwining their fingers and keeping her pinky raised. They continue down the trail, when suddenly, someone lunges forward, throwing the two girls to the ground. As Achako screams again, Sue just glares. You're not supposed to actually attack us, Kiro. But as they climb to their feet, dusting off the dirt from their clothing, it quickly becomes obvious that the girl standing in front of them isn't a student. Wow, you two are so cute. I can't wait to be friends. She lunges forward, slicing a knife at Tsuyu, but Ochako jumps in the way. Tsu, get back. A jolt of pain shoots through her arm as the blade slices through her skin, but Tsuyu is safe, and that's what's most important. Tsu, that's such a cute name. The blonde villain coos. She lunges with her knife once more, but this time Ochako is ready, and she knows exactly what to do. Drawing on her gunhead martial arts knowledge, Ochako seizes the villain's outstretched arm and yanks her forward, throwing her off balance. She quickly pins the villain down, holding her in place despite the other's struggles. Only my friends can call me Tsu, the green-haired girl says with a glare. You're not my friend. The villain tries to protest, but Ochako cuts her off. Tsu, I can hold her down. I need you to go tell Mandalay about what happened. Tell them that villains have infiltrated. But, hurry, we can get help sooner if you go now. Tsu hesitates, not wanting to leave her friend behind with the insane villain, but eventually quickly runs back toward the camp. Ochako sighs in relief. I just have to deal with this villain now. I can handle it. Right, students, return to the home base immediately. Villains have infiltrated the camp. I repeat, villains have infiltrated the camp. Do not interact, and please, stay safe. Mandalay's voice echoes through Izuku's head, interrupting his conversation with Todoroki. The group of students freezes, all of them unsure of what to do. Izuku, however, doesn't hesitate. He instantly jumps to his feet, prepared to rush into the forest and fight whatever threats are out there. Before he can get far, Mandalay's voice echoes through his head once more. If anyone has seen Kota, the young kid with black hair, please inform me immediately. Fuck, Kota. Changing course, Izuku rushes toward the mountain where he saw the young kid the night before. He sprints up the rocky hill as fast as he can. But upon reaching the summit, the sight makes him freeze. Kota sits cowering on the floor, his back against the mountain as a huge villain towers over him. Kota, Izuku shouts, instantly positioning himself between the villain and the child. Don't worry, I'll save you, no matter what. The villain laughs. No matter what. Are you sure you can keep that promise? Before Izuku can reply, the man attacks, slamming a colossal fist into his side. Izuku crashes into the mountain painfully, and the villain advances. Before I kill you, I have a job to do. Tell me, do you know where that Bakugou or Todoroki kid is? Izuku's eyes widen at this, but the villain swings his fist again. He dodges, the fist hitting the mountain and shattering the rocks where Izuku was moments before. Must be some type of strength quirk. Well, the villain taunts. Where are they? Like hell I'd ever tell you, Izuku spits back. He removes his knives from their hiding spots, brandishing them threateningly as the villain approaches once more. Izuku dodges the blows, stabbing his knives into the stomach instead. The villain cries out in pain, his skin splitting open, before quickly closing around itself once more. I've heard of this quirk. He was supposed to be in prison. Muscular, he shouts at the man, who pauses. With this distraction, Izuku launches forward, stabbing his knives into the villain's shoulder this time, dragging them jaggedly down. A large hand wraps around Izuku's arm, twisting and yanking him away. Izuku grits his teeth as he goes flying once more, attempting to prepare for the oncoming pain. Muscular is on him in an instant, raining down relentless attacks. Izuku can barely raise his arms to protect his face in time. He kicks his leg out, knocking the villains from under him. Izuku quickly rolls out from under the man, circling around him in a flash, and landing a harsh kick to the man's back. Muscular lurches forward due to the force of the kick, but quickly turns with a growl as he regains his balance. He grabs for Izuku once more, but the attack is dodged as Izuku twists and throws out his elbow. The sickening crunch of a broken nose resonates from Muscular's face, and Izuku grins. As he does, he can feel the blood from an injury he didn't realize he had dripping down his face and filling the back of his throat. The villain stumbles back but quickly regains his footing. He launches himself at Izuku again, grabbing his arm and twisting it violently. He can hear his bones snapping painfully. But Izuku refuses to give Muscular the satisfaction of hearing his pain, so he simply grits his teeth, forcing a grin. He kicks his knee up, slamming it into the villain's chin, the grip on the scarred boy loosening. Izuku rolls out of the way, his arm throbbing as it hangs limply at his side. The villain seems to be down, so Izuku aims a roundhouse kick to his head in hopes of taking him out, but he should have known it wouldn't be that easy. Muscular throws up an arm, blocking the kick but still letting out a grunt of pain from the collision. He throws Izuku backward roughly, and as his head hits the ground with a sickening thud, the villain advances once more. Izuku lifts his arms to block the blows, not caring that he can no longer feel anything from his broken arm. I hope I didn't cause any permanent damage. As if reading his mind, Muscular grabs the broken arm, twisting it behind him in a direction arms should not go, and Izuku has to bite his lip to stop the cry of pain from escaping. Well, at least I can feel something now. Before he can retaliate, and before Muscular can cause any more harm, the villain is suddenly encapsulated in ice. Izuku, I found you. Izuku looks up, recognizing the comforting voice. He can't see much with his hair and his eyes thick with blood, but he knows who it is regardless. Todoroki stands, his hands outstretched as he stares at the injured boy with wide eyes. Are you all right? Izuku nods, pulling himself to his feet and pushing his hair back. He can't see clearly even after the fact, having one eye swollen shut, but he can easily tell that Muscular is breaking out of the icy hold. Before he can yell at Todoroki to do something, another wave of ice is sent forward, crashing into the villain once more. Todoroki, get me up there. The boy seems to understand what Izuku wants, creating a wave of ice under him, throwing him into the air. With a swift roundhouse kick to the rocks at the top of the cave that sits behind the villain, boulders come tumbling down. They crush Muscular instantly, but Izuku goes down with them. At the last moment, after Izuku has already accepted his fate, Todoroki's ice catches him once more, sliding him to safety. Is the villain out? Izuku nods. I believe so, but we don't have time to wait and see. He rushes over to Kota, squatting down in front of the young kid. Get on, I'll take you back to safety. Kota nods, unable to speak with the amount of tears streaming down his face. Are you sure you can carry him? You're injured. I'm fine, Izuku interrupts firmly, already making his way down the mountain, not waiting for Todoroki. Once the three boys reach the bottom, Izuku nearly crashes into Aizawa, who stands outside one of the cabins with a heavily concerned expression. Midoriya, your arm is. Take Kota. Izuku once again doesn't let the other finish. Instead, he shoves the kid into his teacher's arms, beginning to run off once more. Before he gets far, he turns back. Aizawa, I'm going to find Mandalay. Can we give the students permission to use their quirks? The teacher hesitates briefly before nodding. Be safe, problem child. Izuku nods in return, a reassuring grin on his face. Always. Shouta swiftly carries Kota back inside with the other students. Kirishima is already on his feet, ready for action. Sensei, we need to go fight. Shouta shakes his head, handing Kota to Sadu. No, you're safer in here. I'm not going to put you in danger. The students groan in frustration, but Shouta pays them no mind. Instead, he focuses on the noise from the other side of the wall. Someone's outside. A villain. His capture weapon rises, encircling his head, eyes scanning for any danger. Suddenly, the door violently bursts open, a tall man with black hair and purple scars standing in the doorway. The blue flames dancing in his hands instantly disappear as Shouta glares at him. The villain attempts to attack, but Shouta is faster. He ensnares the man with his scarf, yanking him forward and delivering a powerful kick to the stomach. Twisting his scarf, the villain turns in the air with a yelp, before landing face down on the floor. Shouta grips the other's arm, twisting it painfully behind his back. How many villains are here? What is your objective? The villain closes his eyes with a sigh. And why would I tell you that, Eraserhead? Shouta intensifies the pressure of his hold, and a cracking sound echoing through the room. The villain cries out, along with a few of his students. Tell me, now. The villain doesn't respond. Instead, he begins to dissolve, disintegrating into a puddle of goop. As he goes, Shouta thinks he hears him mutter, I'm sorry. I don't have a choice. What? Was the fire not his quirk? Did he apologize? Am I hearing things? Now is not the time to overthink. He has students to protect. Standing, Shouta brushes off his clothes before turning toward the horrified faces of his students. Before he can speak, however, a voice echoes through his head. Attention students. This is Mandalay speaking once more. The villains are targeting Todoroki and Bakugou for capture. You have permission from Aizawa to use your quirks in self-defense. Please be safe. Mandalay's voice fades, and Kirishima instantly shoots up from his seat. Sensei, please let us go fight. They're after our friends. I need to help. Shouta shakes his head. No, sit down. You're only supposed to fight in self-defense. You're safe in here. Kirishima growls in frustration, aggressively sitting in his seat and crossing his arms restlessly. He glares down at his desk and Shouta can't help but feel bad for the kid. I know you want to save Bakugou, so do I, but he'll be alright. They both better be. Izuku sprints through the forest, Todoroki trailing close behind. Abruptly, he halts as a villain stands in the middle of the road, a katana in both hands as she glares at the two boys. A Midoriya and a Todoroki all at once, she purrs with a twisted grin. My luck couldn't get any better. Izuku scowls. I don't have time for this shit, he mutters under his breath, earning a concerned look from his friend. Todoroki, back up. He complies, still looking extremely confused and concerned. Without missing a beat, Izuku rushes forward, jumping and twisting in the air as the villain backs up in surprise. His foot connects roughly with her face, causing her to stumble back once more. He doesn't stop there. Instead, as he lands with extreme grace, he kicks out his leg again, sending the villain tumbling to the ground. He tosses her katana away, straddling her as he does so. She raises her hands to block her face with a cry of surprise. But that doesn't stop Izuku. He relentlessly attacks, the fist of his broken arm crying in pain. He continues regardless. When she momentarily drops her arms, Izuku presses his forearm to her throat, and it doesn't take long for her to fall unconscious. Izuku huffs in annoyance as he stands, dusting off the dirt from his pants, before darting back into the forest. He doesn't notice as Todoroki stares at him in awe and maybe a bit of fear before rushing after the green-haired boy. As they run, they quickly encounter Shoji. Midoriya, Todoroki, I'm glad you're both okay. Midoriya, can you walk? He nods. I'm fine. What's happening out here? Shoji spares him one more concerned glance before explaining. I'm not completely sure, but Dark Shadow has gone out of control. It's too dark. We were just walking when a villain jumped out of nowhere and scared Takoyami enough for Dark Shadow to take over. Shit, Izuku curses, trying to strategize and think of what to do. Do you know where he is? We can help him. Shoji nods. He's back there. I saw him a while back fighting against this terrifying villain. With another nod, Izuku rushes in the direction Shoji pointed, ignoring the shouts of the others. Todoroki, I need you here. The boy's eyes widen, but he quickly follows Izuku. A large, black hand comes out of nowhere, swiping at the pair. Izuku jumps back in surprise, shoving Todoroki away. Get out of here. The creature screams. Izuku can faintly see Takoyami encased in dark shadow. There are tears in his eyes as he struggles to keep his quirk at bay. Get away from me. You'll all die. Izuku grits his teeth as determination courses through his whole body. Todoroki, you need to use your fire. Light is Dark Shadow's weakness. The other nods, eyes widening with realization. Get back, Izuku. I'll handle this. As Izuku rushes away, Todoroki bursts into flames. It's so blinding that Shoji and Izuku flinch back instinctively. They squint, covering their eyes, but the fire doesn't seem to be enough. Takoyami is still too far away for the flames to have an effect. Oi, half and half bastard. A voice screams through the chaos. Get your ass over here. Todoroki doesn't hesitate, instantly rushing towards Katsuki's voice, his left side still ablaze. The two boys rush past Takoyami as Katsuki unleashes large, bright explosions. Dark Shadow disperses faster than expected, and Takoyami falls to the ground. Izuku rushes forward, picking up the unconscious boy easily as he beams at Todoroki and Katsuki. Good thinking, guys. Todoroki looks to the ground, a faint blush painting his cheeks as Katsuki scoffs. That was all me, rat. Izuku laughs, and Shoji catches up to the group, not even seeming out of breath. Midoriya, give me Takoyami. You shouldn't be carrying extra weight. You shouldn't even be walking around. Izuku rolls his eyes but passes the unconscious boy to Shoji, who uses his limbs to surround the body. The group continues down the path, making their way back to the cabins as they search for any more villains. Up ahead, near the beginning of the trail, they find one. Uraraka is fighting against a blonde villain as Tsuyu attempts to remove the knife that pins her hair to a tree, keeping her in place. The students instantly jump into action, Todoroki knocking the villain back, pulling Uraraka to his side as Katsuki rushes to help release Tsuyu. For once, Izuku doesn't instantly react. Instead, he stands in the middle of the trail, glaring down at the familiar-looking villain. Toga, I'm disappointed in you. Izuku's voice is cold and firm as he glares down at the blonde villain on the ground. His friends gape at him. You know that fucker. Katsuki practically shouts. Izuku ignores him, opting to take a step toward Toga instead. Toga, why are you here? I thought I told you to stay away from illegal stuff while I was gone. The girl hangs her head in shame. But Izuku, she whines. They said they'd give me a place to stay and a family if I did this. They promised me lots of blood and they said they'd love me and be proud of me. Izuku sighs. That's manipulation, Toga. They're villains. You're better than that. Do you not remember the offer I gave you before I left? She nods, still not looking him in the eyes. I'm sorry, Izuku. He sighs once more before helping her to her feet. You need to apologize to Uraraka and Tsuyu. And don't think that this conversation is done, he adds sternly. Once I get back, we're going to have to talk more about this. She nods once more before turning to the two girls and bowing, a solemn look on her face. I'm sorry for stabbing you and trying to stab you, Ochako, Tsu. I won't do it again. Izuku nods in satisfaction. Now leave here before you get caught. We'll talk later. Text me when you get back safely. Toga smiles at him sheepishly and gratefully before disappearing into the forest. He turns back to his friends with a smile. Okay, let's head back to camp now. Nobody moves, they just stare. Okay, what the actual fuck is going on? Katsuki growls. I would also like an explanation. Tsuyu agrees with a tilt of her head. Later. For now, I need your guys' help. The girls nod enthusiastically. How can we help? You've heard Mandalay, right? The villains are after Todoroki and Katsuki. I need your guys' help watching over them. Can you do that? Once again, they nod. Of course. A moment of silence passes before Uraraka speaks again. But where are they? Izuku squints at them in confusion. What do you mean? They're right here. The group turns around, but the two boys are nowhere to be found. After several minutes of frantic searching, a chuckle is heard from the trees. If you're looking for Bakugou and Todoroki, the deep, mysterious voice taunts. I used my magic to take them. The villain comes into view, wearing a long cape and a mask that covers his whole face. He holds up his hands, 2 blue marbles held between his fingers. Izuku's eyes widen before he grits his teeth, seething with rage. Give them back to me. He launches himself forward, attempting to grab at the villain, but he simply jumps to another branch. Nala, he wags a finger. These 2 boys don't belong to anyone, they're their own person. This only makes Izuku angrier. Give them back. The villain laughs loudly as he bounds away. Midoriya, you need to calm down. Shoji attempts, but Izuku ignores him. The only thing he can see is the villain. He can't even feel his broken bones anymore, only the red-hot rage that courses through his body. Uraraka, make me float. She blinks. Okay. She touches him with her fingers quickly and Izuku turns to Tsuyu next. Quick, use your tongue to throw me as hard as you can. I'll get them back, I swear. She nods briefly, doing as he says. Izuku soars through the air, quickly gaining on the villain in front of him. He grabs a hidden knife, throwing it swiftly as he flies through the air. The knife finds its place in the villain's hand, knocking the marbles out of his enclosed fist. He cries out as it breaks his skin. And down below, Shoji catches the falling marbles. Izuku crashes into the villain, tackling him to the ground. The impact vibrates through his bones, but he ignores it. The others quickly catch up, but by the time they make it, Izuku has already been thrown off. Multiple villains surround the group, but they don't attack. Instead, the purple portal from before arrives, urging them to evacuate. I got Bakugou and Todoroki back. Shoji calls out. Let them leave. The masked man laughs loudly. Here's a little tip from your favorite magician. In magic, you only flaunt things, he pauses, removing his mask, when you have other things to hide. On his tongue lay 2 blue marbles. Shoji curses, dropping the fake marbles from his grip. The villains begin to back through the purple warp gate, and the masked man releases the marbles, returning the boys to their human form. With a hand on each of their necks, Todoroki and Katsuki stand, terrified, as the students all rush towards them. Izuku is the fastest. Seeing that Katsuki is already halfway through the portal, Todoroki is his best guess. Todoroki. He shouts, lurching forward with his hand outstretched. Before the villains can react, Todoroki reaches towards Izuku, their hands connecting quickly. The next moments play through Izuku's mind in slow motion. With Todoroki's hand firmly in his, he yanks his arm back, smiling at the heterochromatic boy as their faces just barely pass each other. As he throws Todoroki back into the waiting arms of Shoji, he propels himself forward into the waiting arms of the villains. I can't just leave Katsuki to deal with them alone. At least Todoroki will be safe. Shoto reaches for Izuku's outstretched hand, grasping desperately as he rips away from the villain's grip. The realization of what's happening hits him only once he's already safe in Shoji's arms. He glances around frantically as the warp gate slowly disappears, only noticing the green puff of hair that fades with it when it's much too late. Uraraka takes a step forward, before collapsing to her knees. They took them. Todoroki looks at the empty field where the villains were before. They took them. They took Izuku. It was supposed to be me. Shoji gives him a puzzled look, but Shoto ignores him, tearing himself from his classmate's hold. It was supposed to be me. Come back. Take me instead. He continues to shout into the empty field with tears streaming down his face until his voice gives out. Fuck. I failed him. I failed both of them. Tsuyu puts a gentle hand on his arm, quieting his yells. Tears stain her face. We need to get back to camp. Shoji nods. Takoyami's still unconscious on his back. Tsuyu helps Uraraka to her feet, supporting the sobbing girl as Shoto absently follows them back to the rest of the class. As soon as they make it back, Aizawa rushes forward, along with multiple other students. Shoto can't process who they are, his vision beginning to grow hazy. What happened? We're still missing a few students. They're gone, Uraraka chokes out. The villains are gone and they took Izuku and Bakugou with them. Shoto doesn't get to see his teacher's reaction, nor the horror on his face. The world seems to tilt sideways as he finds himself falling to the ground before his vision promptly goes black. Consciousness slowly returns to Katsuki in waves. When he opens his eyes, everything's silent. Through half-lidded eyes, he watches as Izuku yells at someone. He can't see who. The view past Izuku blocked. Why is he yelling? He looks so angry. He closes his eyes, letting the darkness wash over him once more. The next time he wakes up, he's unsure of how much time has passed. It's no longer dark outside, but the anger remains on Izuku's face. Everything's still so quiet. Did I lose my hearing aids? Is it a quirk? Attempting to sit up, Izuku's attention is instantly on him. His mouth is moving, but Katsuki can't hear his words. His hands are tied, rendering sign language impossible as well. Izuku redirects his glare toward the other people in the room, who Katsuki now sees are the villains who captured them. As Izuku continues to yell at them, Katsuki takes the chance to observe his captors. The boss, or so it seems, is lounging on a bar stool. He has light blue hair, greasy and ugly as it falls messily around his face. His neck and face have scratches, and from the looks of it, they seem self-inflicted, maybe an anxious habit. Behind the bar, the purple void stands polishing glasses. Katsuki doesn't quite understand how that works. A lizard-like creature stands next to a man in a tight black and white outfit, covering his whole body. There are a few others that don't interest Katsuki, but in the back corner of the bar, something catches his eye. A younger blonde girl sits with her knees pulled up to her chest next to a taller man with black hair and burn scars covering his face. That's the one Izuku knew. That explains why she looks like she just got scolded. To say he was shocked when Izuku recognized the villain is an understatement, but when he started scolding her, Katsuki was so lost he thought he might have started hallucinating. The man next to her is also sulking, so Katsuki wonders if Izuku knows him as well. He must have yelled at the two of them while Katsuki was unconscious. As he's observing, suddenly the lizard dude starts walking toward him. Katsuki tries to back away. He tries to set off explosions, but with him being tied down and his hands enclosed in some metal cage, it's futile. The lizard scowls at him before roughly shoving his head to the side. He does something, most likely with his hearing aids, and suddenly the room bursts into noise. You're a bunch of fucking cowards, that's what you are. You're never going to amount to anything in life if you keep attacking and kidnapping teenagers. What, can't pick on someone your own age? Katsuki's eyes practically bulge out of his head as he hears Izuku spit insults at the villain. The green-haired boy turns to him and flashes a smile. The smile would be comforting in any other situation, but in this one, it just comes off as unsettling. He's fucking insane. But Katsuki knew that already. Where are we? What the fuck happened? The blonde asks, glaring at the villains in the room. The handjob villain stands. I'm glad you asked. We're here to recruit. They're here cause they have no life, Izuku interrupts, acting as if the villain hadn't spoken at all. These fuckfaces kidnapped us and brought us here about a day or so ago, then tried to get us to join. But unfortunately, they have no brain cells and didn't think this out. I already escaped my restraints twice. If you see any bruises or cuts on these fuckers, you can thank me. Katsuki hasn't realized until then, but Izuku is completely covered in chains. They're holding his arms behind his back and his legs together. They wrap around his neck, waist, and chest, padlocks placed behind him as the metal painfully cuts into his skin. Katsuki only has one lock around his chest, connecting him to the back of the chair. It's not even metal for fuck's sake. He also has a cage around his hands, thought that one is metal. Izuku continues talking. But yeah, they haven't done anything really, just tried to rough me up a bit, but they weren't too good at it. He flashes Katsuki another grin and he wants to smack it right off the idiot's face. But they're not good at much, are they? For a group called the League of Villains, shitty-ass name might I add, I would think they would be more professional than this, but they're very amateur, to be honest. I took them all down in an instant the first time I got out. I was only restrained again when Shiggy over there started to disintegrate my already broken arm. He laughs, and Katsuki can only gape at him. Welp, it's confirmed, he's insane guys. Can we let him go now? The dark-haired villain asks from the back. Handjob glares at him, but before he can speak, Izuku interjects once more. Don't think I'm done with you yet, Dabi. Not even fucking close. I was right, he does know him. What the actual fuck? Handjob looks livid, glaring daggers at the restrained teen as he stomps his foot like a child. Mag, fuck him up. Get him to stop talking. Now, he demands, looking seconds away from throwing a tantrum. A tall woman with black hair and sunglasses walks over, a scowl on her face. She rears her hand back and Katsuki can only watch in horror as she most definitely breaks Izuku's nose. Izuku, however, doesn't react. He doesn't cry out, doesn't cower in fear. Instead, he smiles. He looks unhinged, insane. He looks terrifying. This continues on for a while, but Izuku never budges, simply laughing as blood drips down his face, his teeth bloody and red. Eventually, the woman stops, retreating to the back with a scowl. Izuku looks at Handjob, his smile unwavering as he tilts his head slightly. Finished already. Katsuki watches in horror as the villain trembles with rage, wanting to interrupt before Izuku gets them into even more trouble. Boy, why the fuck are we here in the first place? Handjob turns toward him, releasing his clenched fist as he smiles creepily. I'm glad you asked. The goal of the League of Villains is not only to kill All Might, we are going to... Blah blah blah. Stuff it, fuckface. Everyone in the room slowly turns to face Izuku, who remains disinterested. I was saying, Handjob continues after a few moments. Our main goal is to... I just said shut it. Nobody wants to hear your shitty monologue. Izuku interrupts once more, a scowl crossing his face. No matter how smart your plan is, as long as you're kidnapping children and attacking schools, you'll never be more than a piece of shit that belongs on the bottom of someone's shoe. Katsuki gapes at the green-haired boy. What the fuck, rat? He hisses. Are you trying to get us killed? Shut the fuck up. Izuku scoffs. Nah, don't worry, he smirks at the villains. They don't have the balls to kill us. If they don't kill you, when we escape, I'm going to fucking kill you myself. Shoto sits on his hospital bed, staring down at his hands. His classmates surround him, but after ignoring them for the first 30 minutes while they attempted to talk to him, they'd given up and opted to sit in silence. After what feels like forever, Momo passes a folded note over to Shoto subtly. Nobody seems to notice except for Kirishima, who sits next to her. By the looks of it, he already knows what the note is about. He starts to open it, but Momo looks at him with wide eyes and a slight shake of her head. Shoto doesn't understand. He draws his eyebrows together in confusion, tilting his head slightly. Kirishima looks at him with wide eyes, making a quick slicing motion across his neck. Is he threatening me? Noticing his obvious oblivion, Kirishima face palms. Momo sighs, attempting to mouth words at the confused boy. He still doesn't understand. The two sigh once more before standing abruptly. Let's leave him be for now, Momo says, glancing sideways at Shoto. We should go visit Tokoyami and see how he's doing. The others nod, filing out of the room quietly behind Momo. Kirishima is the last to exit, leaving after whispering not so subtly at Shoto. You can open the note now. The door clicks closed and Shoto glances down at the paper, unfolding it carefully. Todoroki, I placed a tracker on one of the Nomas and have the location of Bakugou and Izuku, I believe. If you would like to come help rescue them, meet me outside the back of the school at 9. We've got the other people who are going to be joining us. Just meet us and we'll explain it all. Momo, Shoto sighs. Why were they motioning at me if they already put all the information in the letter? Of course, he'll go help save them. Izuku literally sacrificed himself to get Shoto out of the villain's clutches. If he didn't go, he would never be able to forgive himself. It takes until after dark for Shoto to be released from the infirmary, so he goes straight to the back of the school. Waiting for him is Momo, Kirishima, Ida, Shinso, and Kaminari. Most of them don't surprise Shoto, but Ida does. The blue-haired boy glares at them. I'm simply here to make sure nobody illegally uses their quirks, got it? They all nod, Shoto too, even though he has no idea what's happening. The others talk, but he doesn't quite understand everything, simply following the tracker, making his way to the Camino ward with the others. The windows are too tall, Kaminari exclaims. And it's true, they're nearly on the second story of this large building. Shinso grits his teeth, cursing under his breath. Okay, Kaminari, get on my shoulders. He drops into a crouch, but the blonde boy seems to blank at this request. Come on, hurry up. Kaminari swallows dryly before sliding his legs over the tall boy's shoulders as Shinso slowly rises from his crouch. At this point, both boys are blushing furiously. Shoto guesses it has something to do with how Kaminari's thighs are surrounding Shinsu's face, and how Shinso rests his hands on Kaminari's outer thighs to keep his balance. See, can you see anything? Shinso gets out. Kaminari shakes his head, causing the other to nearly fall over. It's too dark to see. Beside him, Kirishima pulls out his phone, quickly turning on the flashlight and handing it to the blonde boy. He points it in the window and sucks in a breath. What do you see? Shinso calls up to the blonde boy, but he doesn't respond. Instead, he begins to lean backward, causing their balance to be thrown off. The two of them stumble back, Kaminari yelping as he nearly topples over. Shoto and Ida both move forward, arms outstretched as if to catch the boy, but he doesn't fall. Somehow, they regain their balance and Shinso slowly goes back into a squat, letting Kaminari slide off him, his face pale from whatever he saw. He hands Kirishima's phone back. Well, what was in there? Shinso prompts again. Kaminari gulps. No miss, lots of them. There wasn't anyone inside, just what looks like a Namo-making factory. The group freezes, eyes wide. No miss, more of them. Shigaraki turns on the TV, an unsettling smile on his face. Izuku promises to punch the smile off his face as soon as he gets these damned chains off. He's been picking the lock behind his back for the past 30 minutes, but it's harder to do when he can't see his hands. Almost got it. Shigaraki flips through the stations, eventually landing on one with a familiar-looking man on it. Someone from the audience on the TV speaks up. How do you know that those kids won't turn to the villain's side? That Bakugou kid looked rather angry and the other one looked quite unhinged. Aizawa stands, slamming his hands on the table. I can assure you, Midoriya and Bakugou will not become villains, he says through gritted teeth. Izuku can see the rage in his eyes. They want to be heroes more than anything. They would never turn to the other side. Before they can listen to the rest of what Aizawa is saying, several things happen at once. Izuku's chains drop to the ground, instantly freeing him. Only a few people notice, Katsuki and Toga included. This is mainly because the rest of their attention is focused on the knocking on the door. Pizza delivery. The voice calls from the other side of the door. Dabi instantly rises to answer it. Already, they shouldn't be here for another 30 minutes. Damn, they have really good service here. Before Izuku can process that Dabi ordered pizza to their secret underground bar while holding 2 kids captive, the door is broken down as heroes infiltrate the villain's hideout. I am here. Izuku groans, already out of his chair and working on Katsuki's locks, which are much easier than his own. A fight breaks out, but Izuku doesn't care. He shoves Katsuki toward the door, grabbing Toga on his way out. He nods to the exit while glancing at Dabi, who seems to take the hint. Before they can get far, though, Katsuki's string of cursing is cut off as a dark liquid begins to grow from the inside of his throat. Izuku's as well. He releases his hold on his friends, dropping to the ground as he clutches his neck. I can't breathe. What is this? It reminds him of the sludge villain. The liquid surrounding him brings him back to that fateful day when his life all went to hell. He can't see anything. He can't breathe. He can't breathe. Until suddenly, he can. He finds himself in an open area, collapsed buildings all around him. Behind him, a tall villain stands with tubes coming out of his head. He has no eyes but wears a large grin. Katsuki and the rest of the villains quickly appear around him. Katsuki gasping for air even after the slime is gone. Izuku starts to step towards him, but something catches his eye. A few hundred feet away, his friends stand wearing terrible disguises. They're here to rescue us. Katsuki is gasping for air on his knees when he hears Izuku speak. The man behind him is the big boss, the villain of all villains. Katsuki's heard Handjob talking to and about him many times already. But that doesn't stop Izuku from mouthing off to him. Damn, you are ugly. He starts, and it shocks Katsuki enough for him to stop hyperventilating. You're like the father of all villains, right? Pretty sad looking if you ask me. You should also hire better people to do your dirty work. Shigi's doing a shit job. I broke out of my restraints 3 times in the course of 15 hours? Maybe less. The man doesn't respond, simply scowls down at Izuku. What the fuck is he doing? Izuku, seemingly catching Katsuki's stare of disbelief, jerks his head to the right slightly. The blonde turns his gaze subtly to follow where Izuku motioned, only to see 6 poorly hidden classmates. Fuck, he's going to try and distract this fucker while they finish whatever plan they're coming up with. Got him, knit Izuku. You know, you're pretty pathetic, potato head. Katsuki chokes as the words leave Izuku's mouth. You're attacking teenagers, and yet we already escaped your guy's grasp twice now. That's depressing, honestly. What can I say? I wouldn't expect anything more from you people. You're all so pathetic. You'll never be more than low-level villains. At this, everything roars to life. The big villain dude turns abruptly with a scowl and grabs him roughly by the hair at the base of his neck, yanking it back sharply. But Izuku just snarls, grinning fairly. Come at me, bitch. The villain doesn't react instantly, so Izuku does instead. He grabs a knife that the villains somehow hadn't taken from him, moving so fast Katsuki could barely follow him with his eyes. The knife is plunged into the villain's side, before being yanked downward and twisted. The man hisses in pain, swinging his fist toward Izuku. You little brat. But Izuku is no longer there. Instead, he's dashing towards where his friends reside, Katsuki right behind him. The blonde fires off his quirk, gripping the back of Izuku's shirt as he launches into the air, where his friends somehow are. Shitty Hair has his hand outstretched, yelling something that Katsuki can't quite comprehend. However, as he launches through the air, he doesn't need to hear what he's saying to know he should grab Kirishima's hand. The contact is harsh, most likely leaving their skin pink, and the slapping sound is just barely audible over the wind in his ears. But it worked. They're safe. Now, all they have to do is land. Izuku wakes up slowly, the steady beeping from beside him regretfully informing him he's in the hospital. As he begins to move, pain courses through entire being. His right arm, along with his left leg, is in a large cast, accompanied by bandages that cover practically every inch of his body. As the memories of the previous day come back to him, he jerks up suddenly, ignoring the pain that shoots through his body, and the students in the room jolt in surprise. Todoroki is closest to him, sitting right next to his bed, so Izuku turns to him frantically, eyes wild. Is everyone okay? Is Kat safe? Todoroki startles at the sudden questions but nods. They're all safe. So are you. A sigh of relief escapes and he sinks back into his bed. Across the room, Izuku notices Katsuki lying in a hospital bed as well. Jiru speaks up, coming from the other side of him. Do you remember what happened after Kirishima and the others got you guys? Izuku shakes his head, but instantly regrets it. His head pounds, the motion vibrating through his skull. I must have blacked out or something. All Might fought All for One, the big scary villain, after you guys escaped. It was a lot. The others nod. He beat All for One, but was really injured and he deflated. It was like, yeah, I've seen it, Izuku interrupts. His friends look at him in surprise, but Jiru continues her explanation. Well, after that, everyone got out safe, though there are a lot of hospitalized people. Aizawa-sensei threatened the people who helped you escape with expulsion, but he didn't really do anything. He was just happy you two were safe. Kyoka forgot to mention it, but because of the kidnapping, We are going to be moving into dorms. Uraraka smiles, trying not to seem too excited in front of the injured boys. He's going to be meeting with all our parents separately over the next few days or so, and then we should be moving in about 2 weeks, as long as everyone's parents allow them to. Fuck. Parents. Izuku glances over at Katsuki, trying to catch his eye, but the blonde doesn't notice. He's too busy staring at a certain redhead who's explaining what happened as well. At night, after all the students have been ushered out of the hospital, leaving only Izuku and Katsuki alone in the room, the green-haired boy makes his move. He slowly removes the IVs and the other wires that wouldn't set off any loud noises before moving on to the heart rate monitor and more important tubes. With a little bit of effort, he figures out the systems, turning them off so they won't wake anyone once he removes the sensors from his body. Once that's done, Izuku climbs slowly out of the bed, not wanting to wake the sleeping boy across from him. He creeps over to the window on the other side of the room, sliding it open quietly before glancing down. Fuck, I'm on the 5th floor. He sighs. This is going to be a pain. As he swings his legs out of the window, it only takes about 15 minutes for him to scale the building, making sure to avoid the windows with lights on so as not to scare the other patients. He's still in his hospital gown and hopes he's not flashing anyone below him as he climbs down. Once he reaches firm ground, he sighs with relief before quickly making his way back home where he can heal. Shouta is ready for this day to be over. First, he had to deal with a runaway kid after receiving a call informing him that Midoriya was no longer in his hospital room. The boy apparently snuck out the window once more, as he did during his last stay at the hospital. After dealing with that, he had to visit the students' parents all day, trying to persuade them to let their kids join the dorms and that there wouldn't be any more kidnappings anytime soon. Most parents were easy enough, the Bakugous putting up the most of a fight before eventually accepting. Shouta looks at his list. All that's left for him is Kirishima and Izuku. All Might and Hisashi have their own set of students to visit as well, so Shouta has to do these alone. As he walks up to the Kirishima household, he pauses, taking a deep breath before he knocks. Instantly, a tall woman opens the door. You must be Aizawa. I'm Yua, please, come in. She ushers the man in, showing him to her living room before calling for her wife and son. A shorter woman enters the room, smiling boldly at him as she bares her sharp teeth. What can we do for you, Aizawa? Mrs. Kirishima. Call me Sakura, please. Mrs. Sakura. Mrs. Yua. Have you had the time to read the email that was sent out the other day? Sakura shakes her head as Yua nods. Shouta suppresses a sigh. We are having all students move into the dorms that reside in UA to protect them from harm. Many teachers, along with myself, will be on campus as well, so they will not go unsupervised. The women nod, Kirishima nodding as well. What happens if we don't want Ai to live in the dorms? Sakura asks, raising her eyebrows. Unfortunately, then he would have to be removed from UA. Kirishima sucks in a breath, turning a pleading look towards his moms. Are there any specific concerns you have, Mrs. Sakura? The woman thinks for a moment before shaking her head. Nope, I was just wondering. She smiles as her wife stifles a sigh. Shouta removes a paper from his briefcase, setting it on the table with a pen. Please sign here then. Take your time in reading over it. Sakura instantly grabs the pen, ready to sign, but Yua grabs the paper before the other can press pen to paper. She hisses something under her breath and Sakura rolls her eyes. After reading through the paper and letting their son read it as well, all three of them sign. Shouta places the paper back in his briefcase. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you all more. Kirishima will be allowed to visit on weekends, but otherwise it will be prohibited. He stands and makes his way to the door before addressing his student. Please have your possessions packed and ready by next Tuesday. The boy nods, and with one final goodbye, Shouta returns to his car. He puts the Midoriya's address into his phone, making his way to the location in just minutes. Upon reaching the home, an unsettling feeling washes over Shouta. Something instantly seems off. Not only the house, but the whole neighborhood seems to be abandoned. Nevertheless, Shouta walks up to the door, taking a deep breath before knocking. To no one's surprise, it's silent. He tries the front door, but it's locked. Hesitant, Shouta explores the house's perimeter, checking for any signs of life, but instead, he finds a back door. This time when he tries the handle, it turns. He pushes the door open cautiously, unsure of what to expect. But the house is an empty dwelling, devoid of both people and belongings. The scent of dust instantly envelops Shouta's senses. It seems nobody's lived here in years. He walks through the house, checking for anything out of the ordinary and any trace of the Midoriyas. As he reaches the kitchen, he pauses in the doorway, observing the markings on the frame. They seem to measure height, little lines with dates under them. They only span 4 years. He proceeds up the creaky stairs, finding 2 small rooms. One seems to be the master bedroom, and the other a child's room. The walls are painted blue with yellow on the bottom and a stripe of red and white. All Might's colors. I thought Midoriya hated All Might. Shouta continues walking through the house, returning downstairs after finding nothing else on the top story. As he returns to the back door, something catches his eye. He crouches down, tentatively running his fingers over the marks in the hardwood floors. Claw marks. They look human. What the? Shouta traces the claw marks, which intensify as he follows them, getting deeper and more common the closer he gets to a particular door. He opens the door slowly, only to find even more marks on the inside of it. It leads to some sort of basement, its cement steps guiding into the dark. Along the bottom half of the frame, the wood is chipped with the amount of nail marks, as if someone was trying to resist being dragged down the stairs. There's no light switch, so Shouta grabs his phone, turning on the flashlight as he goes down the cement steps, which are splattered with what looks like blood. Once he reaches the small room at the bottom, his breath catches in his throat. In the center of the room sits a chair. It looks like a scene from a torture dungeon of sorts. The straps over the arms, legs, midsection, and head only prove his point further, along with the years-old blood stains that surround the chair. It makes Shouta sick to his stomach. As he walks around the small room, something metal on the ground catches his eye. He picks it up carefully and inspects it under the light. A syringe. The sinking feeling in his stomach only gets worse, and Shouta decides it's time to leave. Pocketing the syringe, he makes his way out of the gruesome basement and through the back door. As he sits in his car, attempting to calm his pounding heart and the unease that grips his chest, Shouta dials his husband's number. After a few rings, Hisashi picks up. "Cho, are you okay?" Concern laces his words. But the familiar voice instantly calms Shouta. "You barely ever call me." The tired man pauses, trying to find the right words. "I just visited Midoriya's house. His was the last on my list." There's a pause. Did his parents say no to the dorms? That's the thing, Zashi. Nobody was home. From the looks of it, nobody's been home for years now. What do you mean? Are you at the right address? Shouta sighs. I triple-checked. Nobody lives here. It was completely empty, so I went in through the back. You broke into Midoriya's house? No. Well, I guess technically. It was abandoned. On the other end of the phone, Hisashi groans dramatically. Shouta explains further. There was nothing inside. It's obvious someone with a kid used to live there. The Midoriyas most likely used to live there. I really hope that's not true, though. There's another pause. Hisashi waiting for his husband to keep talking as Shouta tries to find the words to describe what he saw. There were these claw marks, nail marks, on the floor. They led to the basement. It looked like someone was dragged there numerous times. The basement was. Shouta takes a deep breath, trying to force himself to talk about the horrifying sight he witnessed. The stairs were splattered with blood. And there was this chair with straps on it. Around the chair was more blood. So much blood, Zashi. It was dried, years old, but still there. I also found a syringe. I don't know if it has to do with anything though. Hisashi is silent for a moment. I hope that wasn't his. He doesn't have to clarify who he's talking about. Both teachers are thinking the same thing. If he doesn't live here, where does he stay then? Why didn't his parents update the forms? I always thought he was homeless, Hisashi comments distantly. He'd come get food, always covered in blood, and eat it so fast that it seemed like he hadn't eaten in days. What if? Shouta sighs as the other trails off. I'll talk to him on Monday. I doubt he'll tell me anything though. Hisashi hums in agreement. I'll see you at home. I love you. I love you too. He instantly hangs up, not wanting to hear the coos and cheers from his husband. Shouta sighs to himself, placing his forehead on the steering wheel. Shit, I'm going to have to talk to Midoriya. He better not be homeless or I swear to God. Hitoshi slinks back into his room, his eyes wide and his heart pounding. Fuck, I wasn't supposed to hear that. He had simply wanted to ask Pops what was for dinner, but before he could get his attention, Hisashi got a phone call from Dad of all people. I shouldn't have listened in. I should have just left. Shit, is Izuku homeless? After hearing his dad's talk, Hitoshi has begun to question everything he knows about his green-haired friend. He's taking deep breaths, trying to calm his heart down when he gets an idea. Hey, can I come over to our house? Izuku reads the text nearly instantly, and Hitoshi holds his breath as he watches the 3 dots appear. Fuckface, can we hang out at hers instead? Shit, now my parents are wanting me out of the house for a bit lol. Fuckface, oh gotcha, let's go to the beach then. It's kinda hot out, can we just hang at hers? Fuckface, it's pretty messy here lol, we could go to a store or SMTH. Evasive fucker. I've never been to hers though. Please. Fuckface, okay fuck you first of all. Fuckface, I'll meet you outside her house in like 10 and we can walk there. My dads can drive me over. Fuckface, I'm not home RN so I'd rather just walk lol. Hitoshi wears a proud smile as he reads the texts, but it falls when he realizes that his friend might be fucking homeless. Just as Izu said, 10 minutes later, there's a knock on his door and Hitoshi calls goodbye to his pops, following his friend home. As they get closer, Izu begins to grow more nervous than before, fiddling with his hands and looking everywhere except Hitoshi's eyes. Okay, Toshi, I need you to promise me something. The tall boy nods. Promise me you won't judge me for my home, and that you won't tell anyone. He adds the second part in a rushed voice. Hitoshi pauses. Does this mean he really is homeless? Or maybe they just don't live in the best place or something? Okay, I promise. They walk in an anxious silence the rest of the way, but Hitoshi doesn't mind it much. I don't think he has siblings, but I wonder if his mom is nice. She might be working right now though. She seems to work a lot. As they continue to walk, they pass a set of collapsed buildings. Damn, he must be living in a really bad part of town if it's past here. But instead of continuing to walk, Izuku halts in front of one of the buildings, turning and looking Hitoshi in the eyes for the first time that day. His smile wavers, looking unsure and anxious, yet he smiles nonetheless. We're here. Hitoshi sits on the old, worn couch, Izuku sitting on the other end, anxiously fidgeting with his fingers. Okay, what the actual fuck, Izu? The green-haired boy chuckles awkwardly, shrugging his shoulders. You were the one who said you wanted to come over. Welcome to my humble home. Hitoshi pinches the bridge of his nose, sighing. This isn't. Where is your mom? How long have you lived here? Can you just tell me what's going on? Izuku sighs, pulling his legs up to his chest and resting his chin on the top of his knees. I've lived here since I was 9. I was homeless for a year before. You're still homeless? No, this is my home. Not homeless. This is an abandoned building. An abandoned collapsing building. That doesn't count. Izu just rolls his eyes. I was homeless and living on the streets for a year, he continues, giving Hitoshi a pointed look. I haven't seen my mom since I was 8. She left for America, I think. But yeah, I found this place and so here we are. Hitoshi stares, waiting for more of an explanation, but getting nothing. I'm going on patrol tonight, by the way, Izuku adds with a sheepish grin. You can go home whenever, but I won't be here from midnight till around 4. Hitoshi shrugs. Can I stay? After a brief pause, Izu nods. An uncomfortable silence spreads between them, and Hitoshi chews on his lip anxiously. Are you excited for the dorms? At least you won't be staying here. Izuku rolls his eyes again. It's really not that bad, Toshi. But yeah, I think they'll be nice. Hitoshi eyes the small, dirty space. Not that bad. I don't want to see what you consider bad then. Are you excited? You'll get to see more of Kaminari. The scarred boy wiggles his eyebrows at Hitoshi, who leans over and smacks him on the back of his head, eliciting a yelp. Shut up, asshole. What about you? You're gonna see a lot more of your favorite pretty boy. Izuku instantly flushes. It's not like that. Todoroki is just really cool. Hitoshi raises an eyebrow. I never mentioned any names. This time, he's the one who yelps as the back of his head is smacked. Shut up, Izuku groans, hiding his face. I don't know what to do around him. He's just so pretty and so cool. The purple-haired boy nods. I can see what you mean. He's not really my type, though. Izuku smirks. Yeah, is that cause he doesn't have bright yellow hair and isn't a human lightning rod? This time, Hitoshi flushes. I don't like Kaminari. He's loud and rude. He stares at me. Because he likes you. No, because he's rude. Really? He's never stared at me before. Izuku grins at the other boy, bringing his hands up to cover the back of his head. Maybe that's cause I'm not a raging asshat though. Hitoshi scowls, his face still flushed with red. Before Izuku can laugh more, his stomach growls loudly. The tired boy is thankful for the distraction. Have you had dinner yet? I don't think so. Well, are you gonna make some? Izu pauses, scratching the back of his neck. I don't know. I don't really feel like beans again. I'm not that hungry anyway. Hitoshi squints at his friend. Your stomach literally just growled. Do you not have anything other than beans? He just shrugs. Stubborn fucker. Hitoshi runs his fingers over the cracked mirror, the sharp edges catching slightly on his fingertips. Does he really live like this? Izuku went on patrol a few hours ago and should be returning soon. He told Hitoshi he could sleep on the couch or bed, but the tired boy was unable. What can he say? Insomnia's a bitch. As he goes to explore more of his friend's small living space, he hears the front door open. Can you even call that a front door? Hitoshi walks out of the bathroom area, opening his mouth to call out to his friend, but he freezes before getting the chance. Izuku quickly crosses the room, tossing his vest and utility belt off as he goes. He stops at the corner, sliding into a seated position with his back leaning against the wall. He pulls out a knife, and before Hitoshi can react, quickly slits his wrists. Hitoshi can't move. He needs to move. He needs to move. After a few horrifying seconds, his legs finally cooperate. The tall boy rushes to Izuku's side, not caring for the puddle of blood that surrounds him. Izu, can you hear me? What the fuck? His friend is already losing consciousness, his body falling sideways, a small smile painting his lips. Hitoshi bites his bottom lip, wishing it to stop trembling. Don't smile, Izu, he whispers under his breath. Not at this, please. Hitoshi knows that he'll wake up in the morning. He knows he'll be all healed. That doesn't make it any less terrifying. Watching your best friend slowly slip away, dying with a smile, is something Hitoshi would never wish on his worst enemy. pulling Izuku into his lap. He gently plays with the green curls as the tears stream down his face, falling onto his friend's freckled face. Hitoshi doesn't know when he falls asleep. He doesn't know when the tears stopped. But when he feels movement from the body that lays in his lap, he instantly snaps awake. The first thing Izuku notices upon waking is the tense feeling in his back. He knows sleeping on the floor doesn't help, but this seems worse than usual. He tries to move, attempting to get more comfortable, but it feels as if he's lying on something. He cracks open an eye, staring straight into the sleeping face of Hitoshi Shinso. Izuku's eyes widen in realization, and he instantly tries to remove himself from his friend's lap. That was not the best idea. As soon as he moves too much, Hitoshi awakens, snapping his head back instantly. A painful thud resounds through the small room as the purple head of hair smacks against the concrete wall he leans on. Izuku grimaces at this, and Hitoshi instantly grits his teeth, sucking in a breath of pain and cradling his injured head. Izuku uses this distraction to remove himself from his friend's hold, sitting cross-legged in front of him instead. The two of them stare at each other for a few tense seconds before a look of anger crosses Hitoshi's face. Before Izuku can react, a sharp crack reverberates throughout the room. He instantly reaches a hand up to touch his stinging cheek, taken aback. Did you just slap me? Hitoshi scowls. Yes, I fucking did. Don't fucking pull that shit again. At first, Izuku is unsure of what he's talking about. But seeing as he's in his suicide corner, surrounded by dried blood and knives, it isn't hard to put the pieces together. He hangs his head, shame and regret filling his chest as his friend continues to glare at him. Sorry, you better fucking be. A tense moment passes, and Izuku laughs awkwardly, trying to think of how to best change the subject. Do you want to help me pack? We're moving in like 3 days. Hitoshi sighs, seemingly knowing he will get no information or explanation on what happened the night before. Sure. Do you have boxes? Izuku shakes his head. I have some bags, though. That's all I really need. The next few hours consist of the two of them attempting to pack, while Izuku constantly gets distracted and info dumps to Hitoshi about all the random things he finds. They end up packing 3 bags, one for his clothes, one for his vigilante gear and supplies, while the last carries the scarce decorations and items he had in his room. How the hell do you have such little stuff? It took me like 5 huge boxes to fit all my shit, and I barely have anything. Izuku just shrugs. I guess being homeless and broke for 6 years does that. Where is your house? Izuku freezes at the question, racking his mind for any plausible answer. The more he tries to think, the more uncertain he becomes. He decides on a shrug instead of actually answering, hoping it will be good enough for his teacher. Obviously, it is not. Aizawa sighs. I visited your house on Saturday since I was supposed to meet with your parents about the dorms, but the place was abandoned. Why is that? Izuku just shrugs once more. God, the universe must really hate me. I guess she forgot to update our address on the school form. Oops, guess nothing can be done. He attempts to walk away, but Aizawa grabs him by the shoulder, pulling him back. Good thing you can update things like that, he deadpans, unamused. After school, you should visit Nedzu and do that. Izuku shakes his head. It's so very sad, he says in a solemn voice. Unfortunately, I cannot read, so I don't actually know the address. Shouta sighs again, pinching the bridge of his nose as he closes his eyes in frustration. Midoriya, I'm not joking, this isn't a game. We move into dorms tomorrow. I need to meet with your mother beforehand. Izuku stares at him for a moment. She's working all night, but I do have the signed form from her, and based on the email you sent, that's technically all I need in order to move in. I thought you couldn't read. I prefer the term selective illiteracy. Izuku shoves the form with his mother's forged signature into his teacher's hands, who sighs once more before rushing off to his next class. Izuku stares at his empty home with a sense of loss. This place wasn't meant to be empty. It was meant to be filled with his own choices, with the people he wants to be there, with the decorations he enjoys. Now, with only basic furniture, it's no different than his old house. He sighs once more. It wasn't meant to be this empty. As he walks to the underground market, a bag with his jars of blood hanging from one arm, Izuku feels the same sense of emptiness. He already went on patrol. It's nearly 4 in the morning at this point, but he doesn't feel tired. He hopes to run into Toga at the market, having a jar of blood and a lecture ready for her. As he enters through the back doors, greeting the bouncer briefly, he instantly heads to floor 0. The blonde space buns are visible as soon as he steps off the stairs, the light color starkly contrasting the cloaked figures of many others. Izuku makes his way toward the girl quickly, pulling her aside by her sleeve as she yelps in surprise. Izuku, I didn't know you were here. He glares at her for a second as she laughs nervously. Toga, we need to talk. Her head droops, but she nods. Are you going to scold me more? I know I shouldn't have attacked Ochako and Tsu. I know that was wrong of me, but they took my blood and I needed some. Izuku pauses, stopping the lecture on the tip of his tongue. They took your blood. Who? Not my blood, but the blood you gave me? And the League did. They told me that if I did a good job, they'd give it back. They're so kind. Izuku sighs. That's not being kind, Toga. That's manipulative. They're withholding something you need to survive in order to get you to do something they want. That's not kind. That's not love. That's toxic, abusive. The blonde pouts like a child, huffing as she crosses her arms. Do you have a place to stay at least? Her energy suddenly returns as she jumps on her toes, a smile on her face. Yes, because I helped them. The League is letting me stay with them. Izuku groans. You shouldn't do that. They're not good people, Toga. The blonde pouts once more. I don't have anywhere else to stay though. The foster care has always kicked me out after I tried to stab and bite people. I don't understand why. You can't stab or bite people. That's not a thing you can just do for fun. Why not? Because it's bad. She looks at him in confusion and he groans again. Suddenly, an idea pops into his head. Okay, look. What if I could give you a place to stay, no strings attached? She tilts her head. No strings, as in, you don't have to do anything. I can let you stay somewhere and provide you with blood and you don't have to do anything in return. Her brows draw together. I don't have to do anything. I don't think places like that exist. Izuku feels his heart sink for this poor, traumatized girl. They do, Toga. After your fights are done, I'll send you an address and we can meet up, okay? She nods enthusiastically. Okay. Toga skips cheerfully back to the stands as Izuku pulls out his phone. He scrolls through his contacts, but before he clicks on Toga's, he glances at the one that sits above it. Should I? This might be a really bad idea. He shrugs to himself. Fuck it. What could go wrong? Hey, meet me here in like an hour. Burnt fucker, why? Just do it, asshole. Burnt fucker, fuck you, why do I have to listen to a 4 feet tall child? Say that again and I'll come for your kneecaps with my staff, fuckface. Burnt fucker, damn okay. Burnt fucker, I'll see you in an hour. 4 feet tall asshat. Don't say I didn't warn you, bitch. The next hour passes quickly, and after fighting a single round in the ring and winning a decent amount of money, Izuku makes his way home. When he arrives, 2 figures are already lounging outside his home. You're late, fuck munch, Dabi says with a bored expression, cigarette in hand. Izuku steps closer to the man, and as he does, he extends his staff, swinging it swiftly against the back of Dabi's legs. With a yelp, the man lands on his knees harshly, his cigarette falling to the ground. Izuku stomps on it, grinding it into the dirt with the toe of his shoe as Dabi lets out what can only be described as a wail. My cigarette. Izuku rolls his eyes. No smoking in my house. And I told you not to call me 4 feet tall, as face. Toga jumps up and down with excitement. Is it your house, Izuku? Is that where we're staying? Is it close by? Can we really stay there? Can you take us to it now? Dabi looks at Izuku with confusion. What is this freak talking about? I'm not a freak. You're mean. Izuku sighs. Yes, it's my house. Dabi, I'll explain inside. Follow me. Without waiting for their response, he turns and walks into the collapsing building he calls home. The two follow him through the rubble, copying him as he jumps over the unstable pieces and broken debris. After a few minutes, they reach his door. Oi, short stack, where are we going? Izuku grins at them as he opens his door. Welcome to your new home.